At the end of the Ice Age, I accumulated tens of billions of supplies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476, The Source of Food. 3 or 4,000? After hearing this number, Byung Jun-woo's tone was slightly surprised. He glanced around. The defense project is very simple, not even crude compared to the major bases. It's freezing cold, and although there are many snow worshippers, they don't have that much energy to build strong fortifications. You can only rely on the existing environment to fight zombies. However, a group that once reached tens of thousands of people only died of 3 to 4,000 people after a long battle with corpses. I have to say that it surprised him. So, how do you solve the food problem? To feed thousands of people in the last days requires massive amounts of food. I'm curious how you did it. Byung Jun-woo's words made everyone in Baeksu cult a little vigilant. Food source. This is the core issue of any power. If Byung Jun-woo is not from the Jiangnan region, raising this question will definitely be regarded as finding fault. Zhang Yi hesitated for a moment, then replied, "We will search for buried supermarkets and shopping malls in the surrounding area and obtain food or other survival materials from them." "Oh, is that all?" Byung Jun-woo looked at Zhang Yi. His gaze was invisible under the toad's mirror, but everyone could feel that he didn't believe what he said. Because in this environment, searching for food also requires a lot of energy. How can the snow worship cult dig out food from a depth of more than 10 meters under the snowdrift and then continue to supply thousands of people and even once reach tens of thousands of people? Zhang Yi and a group of priests had strange expressions on their faces. Anyone could see that they were keeping some great secret about food. The atmosphere at the scene became tense. Bailey Changking and other members of the investigation team looked at Zhang Yi and the others playfully, and they had a vague guess in their hearts. And this kind of speculation is not uncommon in the last days. Woody said, "Nearly half of the congregation has died. It is indeed possible to feed the rest of the people, right?" As soon as these words came out, the snow worshippers exploded on the spot. Han Chang shouted in disgust, "No nonsense. We never do that kind of thing." Damely frowned and retorted, "Don't compare us with those beasts." Woody shrugged and said with a slightly teasing look in his eyes, "Then it's impossible for you to survive by drinking the northwest wind? That's enough. Don't talk yet." Just when the two sides were about to quarrel, Zhang Yi and Byung Jun-woo unanimously stopped them. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, bowed to Byung Jun-woo and said, "There are indeed some secrets in it, but this is related to the survival of our snow worship cult, so it will not be mentioned to outsiders." "Oh, really?" Byung Jun-woo's voice was still cold, but it seemed to be questioning Zhang Yi. "Can't even we know? At this time, any ulterior secrets may be related to the tide of corpses." Byung Jun-woo suspected that the tide of corpses was actually deliberately caused by local forces in Cheyenne City. Zhang Yi raised his head and took a deep look at Byung Jun-woo. "If you really want to know, I can give you an answer." Byung Jun-woo said, "Okay." Zhang Yi stood up straight. "Please follow me." Han Chang and Damey behind him were a little anxious. "High Priest, can this kind of thing be told to outsiders?" Zhang Yi waved his hand at them. "It's okay. Everyone in the investigation team is from the Jiangnan region, and they don't like us." The priests under him were very anxious, unwilling to reveal the secrets of snow worship cult, because they knew that once this secret was found out by other forces in Cheyenne City, it would mean that a huge weakness of their own would be exploited by the other party. Even these people from the Jiangnan region may covet the treasure. That thing is the foundation of snow worship cult's existence to this day. But as the High Priest, Zhang Yi's status is second only to the leader Yuan Kang guy. He has made a decision, and no one else can go against it. Zhang Yi led Byung Jun-woo and others towards the abandoned building next to St. John's Cathedral. When he came to the building, Byung Jun-woo's footsteps suddenly stopped. He frowned, because the building in front of him gave him a very bad feeling. The grey reinforced concrete building is inserted straight into the snow, like a coffin for a funeral. Bayan Junwoo's keen intuition reminded him that it is best not to approach this place. Bailey Changking also leaned over and said in a low voice, "Captain, there is such a bloody smell." At this moment, Zhang Yi in front of him turned his head and looked at them with a weird smile on his lips. "Everyone, this is the secret of snow worship cult. Do you want to come over and have a look?" Woody crossed his arms and said with a sneer, pretending to be a ghost. Bayan Junwoo adjusted his glasses and followed him in silently. There was one thing he didn't tell his players. After losing his sight, his senses became more and more acute. Just now, he saw something very weird outside the building. In front of his eyes, this is not an abandoned commercial building. It was a gigantic, ferocious and terrifying monster. It is hundreds of meters high, countless hands and feet are dancing wildly, and there are intertwined root systems underground. A group of people entered the building from the entrance, and the bloody atmosphere became more intense. But this bloody smell is a bit abnormal, not like the breath of a dead thing, but like it just flowed out from a living person. So fresh, so full-bodied, not pungent, even a little psychedelic sweet. As they gradually went deeper, they finally saw the face of the monster. The depths of the entire building are occupied by a huge strange plant. Its vines and branches covered the entire building, and the bright red branches and leaves on the walls exuded a strange dark red luster. On the branches, bright red fruits can be seen. When Bayan Junwoo and the others saw such a scene, they understood something. "Is this the food for your survival?" Zhang Yi reached out and plucked a red fruit from the branch and handed it to Bayan Junwoo. "That's right, this is a mutated plant we discovered. We call it bloodvine. It has extremely strong vitality. It can absorb all the nutrients around it and then transform it into its own vitality and bear fruit. The red fruit is an important food source for us." Bayan Junwoo glanced at the red fruit that Zhang Yi handed over and slowly grabbed it in his hands. He didn't eat it, but watched it carefully. Zhang Yi smiled and said, "Don't worry, this fruit is non-toxic. We have eaten it for more than a few months, and now we haven't found anyone who has abnormalities because of it." Bayan Junwoo said indifferently, "Such words make sense. However, is the fruit it produces enough for thousands of you to eat?" Zhang Yi continued to walk forward. "Normal fruit is not enough, but there are ways to speed up its fruit production. For example, this." As he spoke, he pointed to the ceiling in front of him. Bayan Junwoo and the others raised their heads and suddenly saw an ellipsoid-shaped object hanging from the ceiling. The red branches and leaves wrapped it tightly, faintly emitting a faint red light. When you look closely, it turns out to be a faintly visible shape of a human body. "This is a human." Meng Xiao couldn't help but widen her eyes. "Do you use human beings as nutrients to make them bear fruit?" Zhang Yi said expressionlessly. "To be precise, it is human remains." Chapter 477 Strange Existence. After a while, people from the investigation team followed Zhang Yi to the depths where the blood vines were. What they saw was an astonishing scene. The huge space in the middle of the building has been opened up by the blood vines, turning it into an extremely open space, all the way to the ceiling of the highest floor. The blood vine's torso is thick and strong, like an animal, and even has a breathing rhythm. The surrounding walls and floors are covered with ellipsoidal objects. At a glance, there are more than a few thousand. Zhang Yi put his right hand on his chest, closed his eyes and prayed. "May the pioneers become the hope of the survivors, their flesh and blood, and my food." At this moment, everyone understood where the food of snow worship cult came from. They donate the corpses of the dead to the blood vines as nutrients. Then the blood vine absorbed the nutrients of the corpse, produced fruit, and fed back in this way. Woody crossed his arms, frowned and said, "What's the difference between doing this and eating people?" Meng Xiao said, "There is still a difference. At least it can avoid prion infection, and it is easier to accept from a psychological level." Although everyone was shocked by the huge mutated plants in front of them, they didn't feel any physiological abnormalities in this situation. After all, they have seen too many weirder scenes. This method of disposing of corpses is considered good. Zhang Yi turned his head and said sincerely to everyone, "Everyone, this is the biggest secret of my snow cult. It is related to the life and death of thousands of our sect members. Please help keep this secret." Zhang Yi was not worried that people in the Jiangnan region would be tempted by blood vines. If it wasn't for the fact that there was nothing to eat, who would have the idea of this kind of food? After all, it is the fruit formed by absorbing nutrients from the corpse. What's more, with such a huge body of the blood vine, it is difficult to carry it elsewhere. Bayan Junwu nodded. Don't worry, we will keep the secret for you. After finishing speaking, he threw the red fruit in his hand to Wu Di next to him, then turned and walked outside. Wu Di glanced at the fruit with disgust on his face, and then threw it to Kang Sheng who was beside him. Kang Sheng threw it to Qi Guangming again, and several people threw it back and forth, completely treating it as a game. It's just that they are unwilling to eat this kind of stuff. A strange smile appeared on Zhang Yi's face, and he followed the crowd out together. He glanced back, and the thousands of corpses hanging around the blood vines began to shake slightly, whether it was due to the wind or something. After leaving the abandoned building, Bayan Junwu found that people from other forces hadn't arrived yet, so he proposed to meet Yuan Kangai, the leader of snow worship cult. Zhang Yi said, the leader doesn't deal with miscellaneous affairs in the church on weekdays, and I'm responsible for the affairs of the enemy. Bayan Junwu said non-committally, since we are here, we must see each other. I've heard rumors about your leader, and even some leaders in the district are very interested in her abilities. Zhang Yi's pupils shrank imperceptibly. The big shots in the Jiangnan region are interested in Yuan Kangai's ability? This is a very important signal. Indeed, Yuan Kangai's ability is very abnormal. Can help others awaken their abilities. In other words, if you get her, you will get an endless army of aliens. But this is also an excellent opportunity for snow worship cult. If they can get the support of regional forces, the speed of their sect's development will definitely become more and more terrifying. Zhang Yi then said to Bayan Junwu, please wait a moment, I will go over and report to the leader. Bayan Junwu nodded. Zhang Yi walked towards St. John's Cathedral by himself. After he left, everyone looked at their backs with different expressions on their faces. Perhaps because of the shock brought by the blood vine, Wu Di frowned and said, I always feel that this snow worship sect has an evil spirit. Kang Sheng said in a deep voice, this is not surprising. After all, organizations that exist in the form of religion are more or less weird. Meng Xiaoyu said, however, it is also a very powerful ability for the snow worship sect to exist until now, and to allow so many members to survive. Bailey Changqing moved to Bayan Junwu's side. Captain, are the higher-ups really interested in Yuan Kangai? Bayan Junwu raised his eyebrows and said lightly, when we came, someone from above mentioned that let us check her ability. If it's true, as the information shows, she can make people awaken their abilities without paying any price. Then the leaders above will definitely want her very much. That's indeed a power that people yearn for. Bailey Changqing stroked her short hair and said with a smile. When Bayan Junwu heard this, a meaningful smile curled up on the corner of his mouth. How could it be so simple? Oh, what do you mean? Bailey Changqing blinked curiously. Bayan Junwu said, people, when you want to get a certain power, you need to pay a corresponding price. When we awaken our powers, we walk on the edge of life and death once, which is equivalent to the power we exchanged for our lives. And her ability is said to allow people to awaken abilities for free. Is there such a cheap thing in this world? Bailey Changqing's face also became a little serious. I doubt that too. Bayan Junwu raised his toad mirror. This point has also been taken into consideration by the leadership. The military region has been studying aliens for a long time, and they all feel that Yuan Kangai's ability is too incredible. So this time, we have to check her ability by the way. See if it's as magical as the legend says. Bailey Changqing asked, if it is true as the rumors say, so what? Bayan Junwu put his hands in his pockets and said meaningfully, if that's the case, then her ability is definitely no less than LV5's Epsilon in a strategic sense. As soon as these words came out, the other 6 people present were all shocked. Epsilon, these 4 words are as heavy as Mount Tay to a foreigner. Throughout the entire Hua kingdom, there is only one known Epsilon, and that is the mysterious existence in the Shengjing region. His or her ability has been so powerful that it is unimaginable. It is said that those who are targeted by him will be killed, even if they run thousands of miles away. There is no escape. There is no Epsilon in the entire Jiangnan region. In the past, Byung Junwoo was also deliberately cultivated, hoping that he could grow to the level of an alien at the Epsilon level. However, due to his natural flaws, he was doomed to miss this level. Since then, the 4 characters Epsilon have also become the fantasy existence of every alien in the Jiangnan region. But Byung Junwoo said that there might be an alien of the Epsilon level in Shanghai City. Byung Junwoo noticed the expressions of everyone, and he smiled faintly. I'm just saying that there is such a possibility. But that Yuan Kang guy, we don't know her ability yet, so we can't make a judgment. Bailey Changking nodded clearly. That's why you have to meet her in person, to find out about her, right? Yes. Byung Junwoo said. His words have made everyone in the investigation team have a very strong interest in Yuan Kang guy. Chapter 478 Multi-Party Talks. Soon after, Zhang Yi came out of the church and invited Byung Junwoo to meet Yuan Kang guy. Byung Junwoo walked into the church alone. He saw the 20-year-old girl in a white robe. The two talked for a long time in the church. 10 minutes later, Byung Junwoo came out of the church. His face is always as cold as ice, and no one can see his emotions. Bailey Changking and others couldn't wait to ask, Captain, how is it? Is Yuan Kang guy Epsilon? Byung Junwoo said coldly, my eyes alone can't give an answer to the judgment of a foreigner. But, he changed the subject, there is definitely something wrong with this girl. Everyone was surprised. Meng Xiao asked gossipingly, what's the problem? Byung Junwoo pointed to his temple with his finger. Here, out of your mind? Everyone said in surprise. Such a big snow worship cult. Its leader actually has a mental problem? Well, but it's also reasonable. Bailey Changking laughed and said, after all, those who engage in religion are either money-making liars or pious lunatics. Byung Junwoo thinks so. Bailey Changking was right. When talking with Yuan Kang guy, he could feel her religious fanaticism. She really believes that there are gods in the world. This surprised Byung Junwoo. It's no wonder that other affairs of the sect are entrusted to Zhang Yi. After all, for a believer who is too pure, his behavior style is either too idealized or too crazy, and it is difficult to maintain the stability of a large sect. In short, let's slowly consider her ability later. After solving the zombie problem, we still have a lot of time to do it. Byung Junwoo said lightly. Anyway, Yuan Kang Yaran is here, and he can't escape. And to confirm whether she is Epsilon, it will take a lot of time and examples to consider. Soon after, people from several other forces also arrived. According to Byung Junwoo's order, they all brought their most powerful forces, including but not limited to tanks, artillery and almost all combat members who are fully armed. There are thousands of soldiers in the 3 bases, a large number of convoys, and terrifying magic dogs, all gathered in the site of Snow Worship Sect, with a huge momentum. The congregation of Snow Worship Sect also felt very stressed. Zhang Yi and the others also arrived here. Zhang Yi got out of the car, then took Zhao Ke's hand, and pulled her down. You just follow me, don't go anywhere. I will arrange a safe place for you to stay in later. Facing Zhang Yi's tenderness, Zhao Ke nodded happily. A group of people walked towards the obvious landmark building of Snow Worship Sect, St. John's Cathedral. On the way, Zhang Yi met his old classmate Crossing Shan. Crossing Shan greeted Zhang Yi with a wave. How come you are slower than us? Zhang Yi asked Crossing Shan. Judging from the distance, King Pu base is obviously closer than them. Crossing Shan smiled disapprovingly. There are many things to deal with in the factory. We are not as chic as you. Few people are indeed the convenience of having fewer people. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. The two exchanged simple greetings without much communication. Now everyone is confused about why Byung Junwoo called them over, and they don't know what to talk about. From the perspective of personal relationship, they are not very close, so naturally there is nothing to talk about. After they arrived here, someone from Snow Worship Cult immediately came over to guide them. Zhang Yi left Zhao Ke and others outside, while he walked into the church with Crossing Shan. St. John's Cathedral was once one of the most famous attractions in Shanghai City. Zhang Yi also visited here once, but he doesn't believe in religion, so he just came to see the medieval European style buildings. The two entered the church and found that everyone else had already arrived. Byung Junwoo, Zhang Yi, Zhao Honglian and Wei Dinghe all found seats in the church to sit down. It's just that in the church, there is an extra face that Zhang Yi has never seen before. It was a woman in a white holy robe. Her whole body was tightly wrapped. The pious and solemn expression was in stark contrast to her immature face. Zhang Yi immediately guessed the girl's identity. The only person who can still appear here at this moment is Yuan Kangai, the leader of Snow Worship sect. Zhang Yi couldn't help but look at her more. After all, according to the legend, she has a special ability to help people awaken supernatural powers. It was also the first time Crossing Cheyenne saw Yuan Kangai, so he couldn't help but said to Zhang Yi, "She's so small. She looks like a minor." Zhang Yi glanced at him. "My friend from Neon, please pay attention to your wording and restrain your animal nature." The corners of Crossing Cheyenne's eyes twitched. "Damn it, what nonsense are you talking about? You know me, since I was a child, I only like older women." Zhang Yi said lightly, "I have indeed heard that when you were working in a factory, you fell in love with a massage shop owner who was 12 years older than you for 8 years. Everyone lived in the same community for many years, so this kind of gossip naturally couldn't escape Zhang Yi's ears." Crossing Cheyenne's black face turned red all of a sudden, like black iron thrown into the stove. What do you know? I was young back then, and she still had charm, and we were mutual." Zhang Yi glanced at him. "I didn't say you were wrong. After all, lack of maternal love is not a big mistake. My Nima." Crossing Cheyenne can't wait to fight Zhang Yi, but considering his current status, he could only hold back his anger. "Zhang Yi, you don't understand love. You really are a cold-blooded and emotionless guy." When Zhang Yi heard this, a memory flashed in his eyes. Then he sneered. "Emotion? Ha ha ha, emotion is the cruelest thing in the world." The two said that they had already arrived in front of other people, and everyone looked at them coldly, so it was difficult for them to continue bickering. So they found a place to sit down. Bayan Junwoo didn't play politely with them, and directly told what happened last night. "Last night, we killed a corpse king. Facts have proved that when the zombie king is killed, the entire zombie swarm will lose control. And the rat swarm accompanying the zombie swarm will also become headless flies. So the root of solving the zombie problem in Cheyenne City is to kill all the corpse kings who control the corpse group." Hearing that the investigation team had killed a corpse king so quickly, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Zhang Yi thought, sure enough, they have found a way to deal with the corpses. Even though it was expected, Zhang Yi was still surprised by the high efficiency of the opponent's actions. After all, they also went deep underground, trying to kill the corpse king. But in the end they failed. Only Zhao Hanglian showed us should be like this. She knew better that the corpse king who was killed yesterday must have been operating near their Yangsheng base. Crossing Cheyenne asked curiously, "What the hell is the corpse king? Can you tell us in detail?" Of course. Bayan Junwoo also needed their help to eliminate the corpses, so naturally he would not conceal this information. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479 Corpse Annihilation Plan. After Bayan Junwoo finished speaking, he picked up a black body bag from his feet and placed it on the open space in front of the church. He reached out and opened the zipper, and the corpse of a humanoid creature covered in white hair was displayed in front of everyone. "This is it." Bayan Junwoo pointed to it and said to everyone. Everyone stood up and approached the corpse king. When seeing the appearance of the mysterious corpse king, everyone looked a little disappointed. They thought that the corpse king would be a more mysterious and terrifying creature. But at this moment it looked ordinary, like an ordinary corpse with hair. In the past, there was a saying about the corpses in the tomb called Zhangzi, and the king of corpses is like those big Zhangzi with white hairs that have been placed for a long time. Zhang Yi asked, "Is this thing powerful?" Bayan Junwoo replied, "The corpse king can control corpses, and his intelligence is relatively high, which may be similar to that of human beings. But its fighting power is very weak." Zhang Yi nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the combat power is not particularly strong, it will be much easier. He once thought that the fighting power of the corpse king was far stronger than that of the bronze armored corpse. If that is the case, it will be very difficult to solve. It sounds a bit like a swarm. The mother has wisdom and can breed more zombies, but it doesn't have much fighting power, Zhang Yi said. Crossing Cheyenne glanced at him. Why, do you still hope that this thing is powerful? If it is any more powerful, we are all finished. This is true. Fortunately, the Corpse King has a huge weakness. Otherwise, if the Corpse King's fighting power is very strong, coupled with the large number of bronze-armored corpses, and rats it controls, the forces of Cheyenne City will not be able to stop their attacks at all. Fear comes from the unknown. After knowing the true face of the Corpse King, everyone's fear faded away. But Zhang Yi didn't relax too much. If this is the Corpse King, then there must be more than one in the entire Cheyenne City. Moreover, how did the Corpse King come from? If this is not clear, the situation cannot be completely brought to an end. At this time, Bai and Junwoo revealed their method of beheading the Corpse King. Corpse crowds appear every day, attacking humans. But the Corpse King itself is relatively fragile, and will not come out, but hides deep in the subway tunnel. Therefore, someone needs to attract the army of zombies outside. Then some elites go deep into the subway tunnel, and kill the Zombie King to solve the problem of the zombie tide. Without the command of the Corpse King, these zombies are easy to deal with. No matter how many there are, they won't be too much of a threat. After Zhang Yi heard these words, he suddenly came to his senses. So you mean to use our entire snow worship cult as bait? To attract corpses to attack, and then you go underground to deal with the Corpse King? A fierce look appeared in Zhang Yi's eyes. There are also unidentified waves of light flowing in Yuan Kangai's eyes. Wei Dinghe laughed loudly and said, don't you two be so excited. Looking at the entire Cheyenne City, you are the one who worships Zhujiao the most. It is reasonable to choose your place as the battlefield. Faced with Zhang Yi's questioning, Bai and Junwoo replied blankly, although it seems a bit cold-blooded to say so. But in fact, there are indeed considerations in this regard. What's more, you don't have perfect protective equipment like the other four. But you don't have to worry too much. Now the armed forces of various forces are gathered here, which can guarantee your safety to the greatest extent. Zhang Yi gritted his teeth and said word by word, but what will gather here? Isn't it all the corpses in Cheyenne City? Bai and Junwoo pushed the toad mirror and said coldly, if it really does what you said, that would be the most ideal result. We all hope to solve the zombie problem in Cheyenne City once and for all. Zhang Yi suddenly raised his voice and angrily said, then what about the lives of our snow worshippers? What do you think of their lives? Zhao Hanglian said with a playful face. Zhang Yi, it's almost time for you to be more rational. Why don't you think about it? If the people in the Jiangnan region don't use this method to deal with the corpses, won't your snow cult disappear from the map? She spread her hands and said calmly, our family, even if we come to the end of the road, there is still a last road to choose. That is to completely seal your own people in the refuge. With those military-grade equipment, no amount of zombies can break through. But what about you? With so many of you, relying on such rough fortifications, do you really think how long you can last? Although Zhao Hanglian's voice was somewhat mocking, her expression was very serious. Because everyone here can understand, what she said is the cruel truth of Cheyenne City. If any faction in Cheyenne City was the first to disappear because of zombies, it would definitely be the Snow Worship sect. Zhang Yi's face turned even paler. This is not a reason to use our people as bait. Bai and Junwoo finally spoke. Why can't you worshippers of the snow cult be used as bait? As soon as these words came out, Zhang Yi and Yuan Kangai were stunned for a moment. Why can't they be used as bait? Can this kind of question be said directly? Bai and Junwoo looked at them and said coldly, we traveled thousands of miles from Jinling to face the zombie crisis together with you. Now, all 7 of us are here. All the armed forces of the other forces are also here. If you say that your congregation is the bait, then why are we not the bait? Did I let you face this crisis alone? Bai and Junwoo's sonorous and forceful words made Zhang Yi speechless. That's right. Bai and Junwoo and the others have no enmity with the Snow Worship sect. They didn't come all the way to find fault. It was to help the local forces in Cheyenne City to solve the crisis of zombies. Zhang Yi gritted his teeth. Although he could understand Bai and Junwoo's choice in his heart, he still had a somewhat displeased expression. At this time, Zhang Yi said slowly, "You have to know that we fighters are the ones on the front line. Even if it is time to die, we will die first." Zhang Yi pointed to the leaders of various forces. "We have armed forces from so many forces, all came to protect your congregation. What are you dissatisfied with?" Of course, Zhang Yi was just talking about the scene. If there is an accident at that time, the others will be reluctant to escape, because the army is too large. Zhang Yi and his team have few people, so they have no scruples. Zhang Yixin's expression was a little struggling. He also seemed to understand that they had no right to refuse this matter. Bian Junwu explained to him that it was already giving him face. He finally sighed helplessly. "Okay, I understand. But Mr. Bian, you must give us a convincing battle plan." Chapter 480 Please fight to the death. Seeing that Zhang Yixin compromised, Bian Junwu pushed his own toad mirror. "Don't worry, I have already thought about the battle plan. Since the opponents they faced this time were creatures with low IQs, it was relatively simple to formulate a battle plan." Bian Junwu, who has mastered the structure and habits of the corpse group, already has a complete battle plan. He immediately explained his thoughts to everyone. First of all, after everyone gathers in the snow worship sect, it will attract all the corpses in the entire Xianhe city to gather here. Due to the distance in space, the speed at which the corpses gather also varies. Then the 5 major forces will defend around the snow worship cult and lure the underground corpses to attack. And Bian Junwu and other 7 people formed a decapitation team, went underground and beheaded the corpse king. They have already succeeded in this plan once, proving that it is indeed feasible. The basic plan is like this. Our style of play is similar to Siege for Raid, but now it seems that it is more like Siege for Raid. When Bian Junwu said this, he rarely twitched his lips. Everyone felt that this joke was a little too cold. "Hey guy, let us be the food to attract zombies?" Crossing Shan rubbed his arm. "It's almost like this. This is a huge trap, waiting for the corpses to jump into it." Bian Junwu's expression was calm, but full of confidence. After all, it is a group commanded by low intelligence creatures. As long as you find the right method, it is actually not that difficult to deal with. Hearing what Bian Junwu said was easy, but everyone present felt tremendous pressure. Zhang Yi said, "It's quite simple to say. But if all the zombies in the entire Xianhe city are attracted, how many will it be? Tens of thousands? 10,000 plus? Or hundreds of thousands? Relying on us people, relying on an almost dispensable fortification to stop it. The pressure is not ordinary." Although Zhang Yi is not afraid of corpses, as the saying goes, there are too many ants to kill elephants. Without the solid defense of the shelter, it is not his strong point to start street fighting in tall buildings in the city center like the snow worship cult. Bian Junwu still replied, "At that time, you will need to fight to the death. After all, this is for your own homeland. Please fight hard." Zhang Yi shrugged. What Bian Junwu said was fine, so he couldn't say anything more. After all, Xianhe City is their territory, and the 5 major forces will be the biggest beneficiaries after solving the zombie crisis. Zhang Yixin glanced suspiciously at everyone present. He said coldly, "I'm afraid that some people will deliberately release water at that time, causing heavy losses to our snow worship cult. So what should we do?" Zhao Hanglian looked at Zhang Yixin disdainfully and said with a sneer, "Zhang Yixin, don't be suspicious. At that time, who would dare to release the water when the zombie army attacked? Isn't that the way to kill yourself?" Zhang Yixin thought about it, and indeed, as Zhao Hanglian said, even if they wanted to release water, they didn't have the strength. Bian Junwu looked at the crowd. "So, do you have any comments?" Zhang Yi and the others didn't have much opinion. After all, they were not fighting in their homeland. At this time, Yuan Kangai, who had never spoken, said slowly, "While attracting zombies, I hope to protect those who are incapable of fighting, especially children. The believers of snow worship cult are not afraid of death. When necessary, they can give up their lives and fight for their beliefs. But there are still many women and children in the sect. They don't have the ability to fight, and it is impossible to watch them being torn apart by the corpses." When the child was mentioned, a strange look appeared on Bian Junwu's face, but it disappeared in an instant. "No problem. Where is the safest place for you here?" You can free up a place to accommodate children who cannot fight. Anyone under the age of 14, excluding those under the age of 14, can go in. As for the others, they must assist the army in defending against the tide of corpses. Only those young children can hide in a safe place, no one else. Because other people need to be used as bait to attract the tide of corpses. Thinking of Zalkea, Zhang Yi suddenly had an idea in his mind and let Zalkea stay with them when the time came. Needless to say about this matter now, as the leader of a force, he still has the power to arrange a person. Yuan Kangai said, then take this church as a place of shelter. She clasped her hands together and looked devoutly at the cross hanging above the altar. The gods will bless his pious people. St. John's Cathedral is located in the center of the entire sect area, and it is also the safest area. Once the enemy can break through here, it really means that the situation has become very critical. Moreover, there is also a basement in the church, and people can hide in it at critical moments. Everyone doesn't know as much about this place as there are people who worship the snow sect. Yuan Kangai chose this place, so everyone naturally has no other opinions. Now everyone has reached a consensus that the 5 forces will be responsible for attracting the tide of corpses, and then the investigation team will carry out the beheading operation. The most dangerous thing, which is to face the corpse king, and the bronze armored corpse that guards it, is the responsibility of the investigation team. Nobody has an opinion. After all, apart from them, other families really do not have such strength. Even Zhang Yi is not fully sure that he can do it. After talking about this, the frontier army began to lay out the defense line. There are 4 directions in the southeast, northwest, and each of the 4 is responsible for defending one direction. The 5 members of Zhang Yi's team are all elite and relatively small in number, so as a special operations team, they can provide support on the battlefield at any time. Everyone didn't have any opinions on this, they just wrangled about each other's defense work, and finally finalized the defense plan. Bian Junwu distributed communication devices to everyone, which is an advanced communication device that can directly communicate with the Xingyan satellite system. It can maintain communication effect even in very harsh environment. On the battlefield, communication is very important. This device can ensure that the 5 forces can communicate and cooperate in a timely manner. This battle may be a bit long, and it will not end in a day or 2. Everyone must be prepared for a protracted war. Bian Junwu reminded everyone. In fact, there is no need for him to say it. Everyone understands it in their hearts. Now they gather here as bait to attract corpses from the whole Xianhe city. As for when the group of corpses will arrive nearby and how many there will be, it all depends on God's will. At least there is no way for the human forces to control it. In other words, for the next period of time, they will live in this area. Zhang Yi didn't care. Although the living environment here is much worse than the shelter, they can rest on the snowmobile. Zhang Yi had plenty of food in his hands, and he could turn on the heater in the car, so it wasn't particularly difficult. Chapter 481 Meeting Li Jian again. After several hours of discussion, everyone finally reached an agreement. So they each left the church and went out to set up the line of defense they were responsible for. Zhang Yi's task is relatively easy. As the rangers, what they need to do is to play by ear and support weak links at any time. After the meeting, he came to Yuan Kangai with a smile. Miss Teacher, there is one thing I have to trouble you with. Yuan Kangai raised her head and looked at Zhang Yi. Her pupils were deep and bright, bottomless but as bright as the night sky, with a sinking feeling. Although she has been expressionless and seldom speaks even in meetings, it is hard for Zhang Yi not to notice the nominal leader of snow worship cult, especially after considering her special ability. Next to Zhang Yi, Yang Mi obtained the supernatural power by using her ice soul. This is something in Zhang Yi's heart that cannot be ignored. He was full of curiosity about Yuan Kangai. Before Yuan Kangai could speak, Zheng Yixin quickly stood between the two of them. He looked at Zhang Yi calmly, with a programmed smile on the corner of his mouth. Mr. Zhang Yi, I don't know what you have to do. You can tell me, and I will help you. My family's leader is dedicated to serving the gods devoutly, and will not be distracted from other chores. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. Isn't Zheng Yixin too protective of Yuan Kangai? There must be something tricky between the two. Maybe it's a couple. Zhang Yi slandered endlessly in his heart, but he didn't care about his private life. Then he said, it's like this. Among the people I brought is a doctor with excellent medical skills. Zhang Yi paused and said seriously to Zheng Yixin, she is my girlfriend. But she is not a stranger, nor does she have any fighting ability. So I hope to let her stay with your lady leader. How about it? When Zheng Yixin heard the title Miss Teacher, his brows were clearly frowned in displeasure. Mr. Zhang Yi, please pay attention to the title you call our leader. I'm sorry. I thought that people who serve the gods should not care about the red tape of the world. Zhang Yi was grinning, with sarcasm in his words. Zheng Yat-sen did not want to conflict with Zhang Yi. Among the major forces in Xianhe City, the one he fears the most is not the other three with large armed teams, but the mysterious Zhang Yi. After all, Zhang Yi had killed the Zishan base and repelled the coalition forces of several other companies. Even now, Zheng Yixin is still unable to judge Zhang Yi's details. At this time, it was Yuan Kangai who came forward and said slowly, of course. At this time, Mr. Zhang can still let his girlfriend come to the battlefield, which shows that you attach great importance to this battle. You even don't hesitate to let your girlfriend put yourself in danger. Also, the doctor is a very important support person. Let her come to church and stay with us. Zhang Yi looked at Yuan Kangai and said with a smile, look, the leader is still sensible. Well, this matter is settled like this. And she is here, and I will do my best to protect the safety of the church. This is a good thing for everyone. After speaking, Zhang Yi turned and left the church. Yuan Kangai and Zheng Yixin stared at Zhang Yi's back. Their eyes were unclear. Especially Zheng Yixin looked at Zhang Yi with a hint of fear in his eyes. He is really the biggest unstable factor in Xianhe City. It's no wonder that Zheng Yixin is very concerned about Zhang Yi. Because his road to rise is too incredible, and everything he does is extremely surprising. Starting from a humble beginning, he made his fortune as a warehouse manager, and at first he was just a small person in Xianhe City that no one paid attention to. But in the end, they took down Wang Ximing's shelter, fought against the Zishan base, and finally annihilated it in one fell swoop. The Battle of the Five Armies performed brilliantly, and almost single-handedly wiped out more than half of the combat power of the two major bases, Zhaoyu and Yangsheng. And in that battle, no one saw his figure from the beginning to the end, but only tasted his bullets. Later, when the tide of corpses struck, all the forces were devastated. Only Zhang Yi solved the tide of corpses early, and could sit back and relax. Such an experience, what is it, if it is not a legend? Hope he doesn't become our enemy. Zheng Yixin muttered to himself. Zhang Yi left the church and was planning to go back to Zhao Ke and the others to tell them the results of the meeting. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of a familiar figure out of the corner of his eye. Zhang Yi looked over subconsciously, and that person also looked back. As soon as his eyes crossed in the air, Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows, slightly surprised. Li Jian? He saw a skinny middle-aged man, wearing black-rimmed glasses, passing by the church with a tired expression. This is his good neighbor back then, the former chief financial officer of Xianhe City of Walmart Group, Li Jian. After such a long time, Zhang Yi thought that they had been eaten up by zombies in Yulu community long ago. I didn't expect him to appear in Snow Worship Sect. After Li Jian saw Zhang Yi, surprise flashed deep in his eyes. But soon he turned his head and walked away, as if he didn't know Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi immediately reacted. The relationship between the five major forces in Xianhe City is ambiguous, and they each have their own battles. Now that Li Jian has joined the Snow Worship Sect, as a foreigner, he must also be a manager. If you show that you know Zhang Yi, it is easy to be suspected by other members of Zhu Beijiao. Zhang Yi didn't care too much. Anyway, he didn't know Li Jian very well. To avoid suspicion, he didn't bother to go over to say hello. Zhang Yi came to the place where they parked the snowmobile. Holding Tang Dao in her arms, Liang Yu chatted with several other people. Everyone looked at the current situation of the life of the snow worshippers, and they were also full of sighs and emotions. People can always feel happiness through comparison. Looking at the current state of snow worship cult, it is simply a super large slum. Most people are so hungry that they can barely eat a meal. As for heating, they basically rely on hugging and shaking, and even firewood is relatively scarce. How can it compare to them? In the warm and comfortable luxury villa, enjoy delicious food every day and blow the heating. Even their clothes are obviously different from others. The combat uniforms on them are excellent against the cold, and the built-in batteries can generate heat. Although it doesn't look very thick, it is extremely warm, and it does not look bulky when you move around. And all of this depends on the superior living conditions Zhang Yi created for them. Zhang Yi walked up to several people and told them about the content of the meeting. After everyone listened, they were not too surprised. After all, when they came, they also guessed that it would be such a result. They just didn't expect that they might have to live here for a while. There will naturally be some inconveniences. For example, going to the bathroom. In this environment, taking off your pants and revealing your lower body is almost fatal. If it is small, it may not be a big problem. If it is big, you can directly choose amputation, which is still the best result. Naturally, Snow Worship Cult also has toilets, but their toilets are all built underground, and they are also dry toilets dug out temporarily. Although the temperature underground is not that cold, the smell in the closed space is really not something ordinary people can bear. Especially for those who lack resources, they have to keep their fesses as fuel, or use biogas digesters to generate electricity. Those who worship the snow sect can bear it, but Zhang Yi and the others live a better life, but they really can't bear the convenience in that environment. Let's make do with it for the time being. I'll build 2 cars to use as toilets. One for men and women. We are not short of resources, so we don't need to make ourselves live too hard. Chapter 480 To the Secret of Snow Worship Cult. Zhang Yi said, and looked at Zhao Keller. As for Keller, you sleep with Liang Yu in the car first. After the battle starts, I will send you into the church. The leader of the Snow Worship Cult is there, and they will definitely try their best to protect the safety there. If we need treatment, we will come to you. Zhao Keller nodded. Okay, no problem. It was the first time to participate in such a large-scale war, and Zhao Keller was both nervous and excited. She can finally use her abilities and prove her worth. They may face more crises in the future, and if she goes to the battlefield one day earlier and adapts to this environment, she will be able to help Zhang Yi more. Besides, there are a few more things I want to tell you. Zhang Yi's tone became a little low, and his face became serious. Zhao Keller blinked, then quickly stood up straight and listened to Zhang Yi's words. Others were also very curious, wondering what Zhang Yi's plans were. Zhang Yi looked around and confirmed that no one was around, so he pulled a few people into the car. After closing the car door, he said to Zhao Keller that Yuan Kanga is not an ordinary character. She can help people awaken their abilities, but I'm not very confident about her ability. First of all, remember, once she offers to help you awaken, you must refuse. Do you understand? Zhao Keller's eyelids drooped. He pondered for 2 seconds, and then nodded slowly. Zhang Yi knew that Zhao Keller was a little disappointed. She also hopes that she can become a different person, so that she can help Zhang Yi more, instead of just silently praying at home for Zhang Yi's safe return every time as in the past. But since Zhang Yi said so, she will obey Zhang Yi's orders honestly. Zhang Yi touched her face, stared into her eyes and carefully reminded, there is no free lunch in this world, and all the gifts of fate have been secretly priced. So you must not be greedy for petty gains, or you will suffer big losses sooner or later. Zhao Keller smiled sweetly. I just remember it. Look at you. Are you so worried about me? Zhang Yi smiled. It's not that I don't worry about you, but that I care too much about you. Zhang Yi and Zhao Keller first met in the last days. The two have been together for almost half a year. In the beginning, Zhang Yi just used Zhao Keller as a tool man who could help him heal when he was sick and warm him when he was lonely and cold. But as time goes by, it is impossible to say that there is no trace of emotion. So Zhang Yi didn't want Zhao Keller to have an accident. He meant if Yuan Kangai's Bing Pio had the ability to control people's hearts and let Zhao Keller endanger his life. What will Zhang Yi do? Zhang Yi has a standard dancer in his heart, and he didn't want that to happen, so he wanted to eliminate all possibilities. When other people saw the appearance of Zhang Yi and the two throwing dog food, they all had jokes on their faces. Uncle Yu laughed, and Fatty Zhu couldn't bear to look directly at him. As a single dog with hurt feelings, he couldn't see this, and really wanted to roll his eyes away. Even Liang Yu, who had always been indifferent, couldn't help turning her head sideways with a strange expression. Besides this, there is one more thing you need to do. Help me keep an eye on someone, Yuan Khan guy. Zhang Yi said to Zhao Kena. Zhao Kena tilted her head. Do you think there's anything wrong with her? Zhang Yi thought for a while and said, her existence is a big problem in itself. In short, you should pay more attention to all her actions secretly. Just tell me when the time comes. Yuan Khan guy's ability, blessing, is too perverted. As long as she can attract enough followers, she can create a large-scale alien army. There must be no one who would not be afraid of such a person. Zhang Yi also couldn't tell why he felt strange towards her. Maybe it's just out of prudence, keeping vigilance against all possible powerful enemies. Okay, I know. This task is not a big problem for Zhao Kena. Several people were chatting when there was a knock on the car door. Zhang Yi turned his head and saw that it was Crossing Shan, an old classmate. Zhang Yi opened the car window. What are you doing? Crossing Shan said leisurely. Everyone is busy setting up the defense line, and the corpses will come over at some point. Hurry up and familiarize yourself with the environment. Zhang Yi said with a smile. You are really caring. That's not. Crossing Shan looked into the distance, the line of defense that his team was in charge of. I brought all my veterans here. We can't afford to lose this battle. Having said this, he suddenly gritted his teeth. Damn it, I hope that old boy Bayan Junwoo won't play tricks on us. Zhang Yi took a deep breath through his nose and patted his shoulder. Do it well. Now it seems that we have no better way than trusting them. He also took a few people out of the car and began to familiarize himself with the surrounding environment of the entire snow worship cult. As a ranger, you need to support weak links at any time, so you have to understand everything. Then use your abilities according to the battlefield environment. He himself found the best defensive position immediately. It was the abandoned commercial building next to St. John's Cathedral. It is more than 100 meters high and is located in the center of Snow Worship Sect. As long as you go there, you can be condescending and rely on his ability to defend all areas with a radius of 3.5 kilometers. In order to deal with zombies, he asked Luke Karen to create a new type of bullet specially for him. Bullets have reduced penetration, but can explode after hitting a zombie's body, shattering it. After all, the physical defense of ordinary zombies is not high, about the same level as frozen pork. Well, this is real zombie meat. It is much easier to use a large caliber sniper rifle with a blasting bomb to deal with them one by one. In order to deal with the bronze armor corpse, it is specially equipped with a batch of large caliber armor piercing projectiles for anti-equipment. On the other hand, Zhang Yi is located at a high place, which is also convenient for him to command Liang Yu and the others to fight. It is best to win this battle. If they can't win, they also need to grasp the movement of the battlefield in time to facilitate their escape. So Zhang Yi came to the abandoned building, planning to go to the top floor to decorate. However, several strangers from the Snow Sect carefully blocked Zhang Yi's way and did not allow him to enter the building. This is the forbidden place of our snow cult. Please leave. A foreigner from the snow worship cult standing in front of Zhang Yi said with a serious expression. Forbidden place. There was a playful smile on Zhang Yi's face. The term made him feel a little funny. Have you read too many martial arts novels? It has only been a few months since the snow worship cult was established, and this commercial building had nothing to do with them before. So why is it now a forbidden place? It's inconvenient for us to explain this to you. Mr. Zhang, please don't make it difficult for us, the stranger said with a cold face. Zhang Yi and the others immediately noticed that there was something tricky in this building. Chapter 483. Before the Great War broke out. When Zhang Yi and the others were about to go to the abandoned building next to the church, they were stopped by several strangers. Their attitude was very firm, and they did not allow Zhang Yi and others to approach the building. But the more they were like this, the more curious Zhang Yi became. But now he doesn't want to conflict with others because of his curiosity, so he said with a smile, okay, it's up to you, then I'll just change the place. This is a commercial district, and there are still many high-rise buildings, so it doesn't make much difference if you change one. It's just that this incident aroused Zhang Yi's strong interest. He likes to inquire about other people's intelligence, because that could be someone else's life. Zhang Yi changed to a building next door. He climbed to the top of the building step by step, and the height of more than 30 floors made him a little out of breath. If he hadn't been exercising more than usual, he would have been exhausted and paralyzed on the ground at this time. For example, Fatty Zoo, he refused to go up until he was halfway up, insisting on waiting on the stairs for others to come down. Uncle Yu said, "Can't you just use the double doors to go through the space? It's so troublesome to climb up step by step." Zhang Yi said with a smile, "When there is no one in the dark, I will use the double door to move. But this ability cannot be easily exposed." Uncle Yu sighed, "You are too steady." Now that the major forces are cooperating instead of being enemies, Zhang Yi's vigilance has not diminished at all. Zhang Yi observed on the top floor of the building. Sure enough, his choice was not wrong. From this angle, his shooting can cover an area with a radius of 3.5 kilometers around this place. Within this range, except for the partial blind spot in front of him, his bullets can hit any point. At the very least, he can cover the range outside the 4 lines of defense. "Okay, I'll defend here. Just stay in this building for your words. Anyway, we don't have to fight on the front line, and we can adapt to the situation." After confirming the location of the sniper, Zhang Yi and the others walked down from the roof, and then returned to the snowmobile to rest first. They want to preserve their physical strength in a comfortable environment, and keep themselves in the best condition. Compared with other people, their food is also very rich, which is the benefit of having space for different people in the team. Although all major forces brought food over, their food was at most military rations or canned food. It is eaten by melting snow into water, and eating it with thermite. As for the more than 5,000 followers of Snow Worship Cult, their food is even more poor. Many people are eating rat meat, and they have to save food and money. On Li Jian's side, he left quickly after meeting Zhang Yi. On the way back, he was a little restless, hesitating whether to tell Zhang Yi what he knew, then pray that Zhang Yi can take their family away. But after thinking about it carefully, he denied the thought in his heart. Because Zhang Yi is not some kind of selfless saint, it is impossible for people to take them in for no reason. In a disorderly world, only you can give yourself fairness. What else can you trust? When Li Jian returned home, Li Kao had already recovered from his injuries, but his spirit had a serious problem. Having lost his roots as a man, the once sunny and cheerful boy became melancholy. He hid himself in the tent and didn't let anyone in. He didn't even eat much when it was brought to him. This is very worrying for Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang. When Li Jian returned home, he saw Zhang Jianfang frowning, and the room smelled of urine. Li Jian walked over and asked in a low voice, "Did he go to the toilet in the tent?" Zhang Jianfang hurriedly pulled him aside, lowered his voice and said helplessly, "He was just hit by that just now, and it's inconvenient to go to the toilet now." Li Jian sighed, "It's such a time now, it's good to be alive. I don't expect him to carry on the family anymore. I hope he can think about it." Zhang Jianfang frowned and said, "You said it lightly." The husband and wife were chatting when a priest they knew walked in. Li Jian hurried over to say hello. "Old Liu, why are you here?" The priest who came was named Liu Deming, and he was an ordinary alien in the Snow Worship Cult. Li Jian is a person who knows the ways of the world very well, so after coming to the Snow Worship sect, he also made some friends. Liu Deming has a pretty good relationship with him on weekdays. Liu Deming glanced at the tent. He knew what happened to Li Kao recently, but he turned a blind eye to the smell of urine. After staying in this kind of place for a long time, the sensitivity to taste has long been reduced to the lowest level. Don't talk about feces, urine and fart, just a person's body. As long as he unbuttons his clothes, he can smell a stench. On Bakesagio's side, except for a few high-level people, everyone else hasn't showered for almost half a year. Liu Deming said to Li Jian, "The fight will start soon, and you can see the battle outside. It will not be safe for a while. Your ability is not for combat. The higher-ups asked me to inform you. Take your family and hide under the church." Li Jian frowned upon hearing this. "Look at this battle. This battle will be extremely fierce. Can we survive?" Liu Deming shook his head. He couldn't give an answer. "Let's resign ourselves to fate. In this world, living a day is considered a day. After Liu Deming left, Li Jian looked at the tent where his son was staying and fell into a tangle. Now when Li Kao heard the word religious leader, he went into a frenzy and took him to the church, afraid that something might happen. But the danger is imminent, and if you don't go to the church, you can't guarantee the safety of your family. In desperation, Li Jian discussed with Zhang Jianfang and then went to persuade Li Kao to leave here and take refuge in the church. Son, there will be another war here soon. And the battle is not small. It's very unsafe here. Maybe zombies will come over at any time. Come with us. But inside the tent, Li Kao didn't respond at all. Especially when he heard that he was going to church. He suddenly yelled like a wounded beast. I won't go. Go, you all go. Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang looked sad, but they were helpless. Just when they were struggling with how to persuade Li Kao, a girl appeared at the door. It's Li Kao's girlfriend Zubibi. It should be said that they are good sisters now. Uncle, aunt, let me try. Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang looked unhappy when they saw Zubibi. If it wasn't for Zubibi, Li Kao wouldn't have been cut off by Yuan Kangai himself. But they also knew that Zubibi couldn't be blamed for that incident. Although it happened because of her, they couldn't say that she was at fault. Li Kao and the tent suddenly stopped crying after hearing Zubibi's voice. The couple looked at each other, then walked over and said to Zubibi earnestly, little girl, please persuade Lel to let him take refuge in the church. It's dangerous outside now, and we can't stay any longer. We can go there together when the time comes. Do you understand? Chapter 484. Nowadays, although the followers of the snow worship cult can see a large number of armed forces appearing around the camp, but they don't know the plans at the top. Many people even thought that these people came here specially to protect them, so they cheered happily. Only a few people know how big a crisis they are about to face. The higher-ups only notified people above the level of priests and their families, asking them to take refuge in churches. For the ordinary congregation, the news was blocked. It's just that some people have lived in the last days for a long time, and they have a particularly keen sense of danger. For example, Zubibi, she noticed this. Therefore, now that she came to look for Li Kao, is it out of love for Li Kao, or to protect her own safety? No one can say no to this. But now Li Jian needed her help, so he made it clear to her. Although my son is disabled, I, Li Jian, still have a certain status in the snow worship sect, and can protect you well. So, you see what to do, right? Zubibi nodded obediently. I know, uncle. I will persuade Lel well. She walked to the tent, knelt down and chatted with Li Kao. Li Kao's emotions went from agitation and resistance at the beginning to gradually stabilizing later. A 16-year-old boy is still a little more naive than a girl of the same age. Zubibi easily soothed his wounded heart. It's okay, I won't dislike you. What I like is your optimistic personality. Lel, I really want to meet you. Don't tell me you don't like me. I'm so lonely. In this world, I don't have any relatives. I only have you. So, don't ignore me, okay? So, the injured boy was slowly comforted, and he finally opened the tent and let Zubibi in. The two communicated for a while, and finally Li Kao agreed to take refuge in the church with Li Jian and others. As for what method Zubibi used, it's inconvenient to elaborate. It's just that Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang, as adults, understand that in many cases, it doesn't have to be that way to get happiness. Zubibi opened the door to a new world for Li Kao. It's just that no one wants to ask how a girl like her knows so much. It can only be said that she was able to survive until now in the last days, and sometimes she had to sacrifice something in exchange. After Zubibi comforted Li Kao, she walked to Li Jian's side and said with a smile, Uncle, Lel agreed to go. Li Jian looked at the girl in front of him, and then at his son, who was in better condition. He said in a deep voice, after going to the church, be careful. Our leader doesn't seem to like seeing love between men and women. Zubibi quickly lowered her head and said weakly, yes, I have a long memory. The defense line centered on snow worship cult has been deployed. Almost all the armed forces of the 5 major forces gathered here, plus the followers of the snow worship sect. The number reached as many as 8,000. You know, after the horde of corpses raged, it was hard to say whether the population of the entire Cheyenne City was or not. So this is the densest place in Cheyenne City at this time. I just hope that the army of zombies can smell the smell of living people and gather here. After observing the surrounding area, Zhang Yi and the others also made a basic battle plan. That is, once you find that the momentum is wrong, run away quickly. However, the day passed so peacefully on the first day, and not a single zombie appeared in the area around the snow worship cult. Everyone left some guards and took turns to be on duty at night to prevent zombies from attacking at night. Others are starting to rest. In this way, the time came to midnight. Zhang Yi, who was resting in the car, suddenly opened his eyes. He sat up from the bed, and the sound of snoring came from beside him. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zoo snored louder than the other. Zhang Yi lifted the curtain on the car window and looked outside cautiously. Even at midnight, there are still people patrolling the camp, but most of them have already rested. Especially the building, where outsiders are forbidden to approach, and there are many guards around it. After people from several major forces gathered here, the defense level of the snow worship cult also increased. Obviously, the important secret of snow worship cult is hidden there. Their snowmobile was parked in front of the building Zhang Yi chose. After Zhang Yi calculated the distance, he opened the double doors and walked directly from the snowmobile to the inside of the building. He opened the tactical eyepiece and observed the scene of the building opposite. It was pitch black inside. Every window was blocked by something, and it was impossible to see what was going on inside. It feels like a cement coffin. What the hell is hiding? Zhang Yi's curiosity came up. When you know that there are huge secrets nearby, and you have the ability to travel through space, you can't help but want to find out. After Zhang Yi thought for a while, he decided to use the double doors to cross to the upper floors of the building first. He concluded that, even if there were guards in the building, it was impossible to be on it, because throughout the day, he has been observing the situation in this building. Although I also saw a group of people coming in and out, they didn't stay for long, and then came out with a few carts. Zhang Yi judged that this place might be the warehouse. Now that you found something good, why don't you go and see it? A smirk appeared on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. The distance between the two buildings was less than 300 meters, so Zhang Yi crossed directly. The next moment, he walked out from another door and appeared in a room in the abandoned building. The darkness in front of him has no effect on him, and the night vision function of the tactical eyepiece is very good. Zhang Yi looked around, and surprise appeared in his eyes. Because he discovered it immediately, the room in front of him was actually filled with vines, branches, and leaves of plants. So much so that his feet were covered with vines. Plant? Is it a mutated plant? The room in front of him should be an office, with damaged tables and chairs, and documents all over the floor. In a space of tens of square meters, the walls, ceiling and floor are covered with vines and branches of plants. And it is these things that cover the window. A strange idea suddenly appeared in Zhang Yi's mind. Perhaps the body of this plant is as big as the entire building. This is the secret of the snow worship cult's forbidden area? It's just, what is this plant for? To provide food? Or does it have other functions? Zhang Yi thought so in his heart. It was the first time he had seen such a huge and weird plant. But think of cats and dogs that can become gigantic, not to mention plants that have the ability to grow infinitely. Zhang Yi was ready to escape at any time. With the existence of the skill of double doors, there is currently nothing that can prevent him from escaping. Although I don't know what the thing in front of me is, but he has come all the time, so I have to take a look. He vaguely felt that this was a very huge secret. This is an excellent opportunity for him to master the life gate of snow worship cult. Chapter 485 Christmas Eve. The sword looming appeared on Zhang Yi's right hand, and he had already activated the supernatural power, which increased his body speed and reaction ability 8 times. After a long period of personal training with Liang Yu, his close combat strength has also improved a lot. The key is that the weapon is good and the ability is also powerful. Even if he encounters the enemy in such a narrow environment, he can react quickly. Zhang Yi walked forward step by step, and the door of the office was blocked by vines. Zhang Yi thought for a while, but instead of cutting, he cut a hole in the wall with a knife, and then crawled out of the hole. But when he came outside, he was shocked. Because the center of the whole building was turned into a sinkhole. The corridor was under his feet, and more than half of it was destroyed, only about 1 meter wide to stand on. But the next moment, Zhang Yi didn't have the mind to control his feet. Because he saw that huge dark red plant, rising up from the deepest part of the building, as if it was standing tall, straight to the ceiling of the top floor. Is this thing a world tree? Zhang Yi thought of a huge plant he had known before. Obviously the plants in front of me are not that kind of thing. Although there have been trees bigger than this in the world. But Zhang Yi knew that this huge plant was definitely mutated, and it had grown to such a size in just a few months. The most strange thing is that its whole body is blood red, and there will be a rhythm like human breathing on the tree. Under the black bark, the lines showed the bright red of human flesh and blood. As if this is not a tree, but a living person. Zhang Yi couldn't help swallowing his saliva. He didn't know whether the mutated plant was aggressive, so he was careful not to make any movement. Then, he carefully observed the surrounding scene. There are vines and branches all over the building, and many fist-sized bright red fruits have grown on the branches. The leaves curled into ellipsoids, hanging on the walls and roofs like insect eggs, with unknown contents inside. The picture in front of me is full of mystery, and in such an environment, people can't help but feel a creepy feeling. Zhang Yi took several deep breaths in a row to calm himself down. He began to think about the situation in front of him. Undoubtedly, he discovered a huge secret of snow worship cult. Then comes the choice. It is to watch the excitement, then pretend nothing happened and then leave, or collect the fruits and branches, and open the giant insect egg-like thing, to take a closer look. It's a tough choice. Once discovered, it is very likely that the people of snow worship cult will fight with him with their lives. But now, does Beizhujiao dare to risk his life with him at such a critical time? Zhang Yi thought about it again and again, and in the end he didn't want to miss this opportunity. So he walked over and picked 2 bright red fruits from the branches. When picking it, he carefully observed the reaction of the giant plant. After seeing that there was no abnormality in it, Zhang Yi was a little relieved, and then cut some branches, and took a few leaves. Seeing that nothing unusual happened, Zhang Yi raised his head, and looked at the dense cocoon-shaped ellipsoidal objects hanging on the wall. There's no big bug in there, is there? To be honest, Zhang Yi was a little scared. Humans are instinctively disgusted with bugs. If he really peeled it off, and saw large worms crawling out of it, with green mucus flowing all over his body, he could spit out the overpass meal. Gritting his teeth, Zhang Yi still decided to make one, and come over to have a look. If you don't do it, you will never stop. He came to a cocoon along the broken corridor, cut off its branches with a knife, and then smoothly put it into a different space. After completing this step, without any hesitation, Zhang Yi decisively opened the double doors and left the abandoned building. He didn't rush to study what he got. After all, he wasn't good at it either. So Zhang Yi went back to the car and pretended to rest, but he didn't fall asleep all night. In this way, the time came to the next day, and Zhang Yi carefully observed the movement of Beizhujiao. He wanted to see if what he had done had been discovered. But everything in snow worship cult was as usual, and there was nothing unusual. Zhang Yi was a little relieved. According to his guess, his behavior is also difficult to be discovered. After all, in the entire Xianhe city, he has only met one alien from the space department, and that is the girl who passed through the wall killed by him. The snow worshippers guarded the surrounding area of the abandoned building tightly, and they never thought that anyone could sneak in. Zhang Yi was relieved, and after going out, he pretended nothing had happened, and went up to the building to defend as usual. It's just that after a day, not a single zombie appeared around the snow worship cult. Such a scene is really too weird. At the beginning, Zhang Yi and the others also expected that there would not be too large a group of corpses to attack at first. But around the snow worship cult, there are a lot of zombies. They also come and attack humans. However, after a day and a night passed, everyone didn't even see a hair of the zombie. Ordinary believers of snow worship cult thought this was a good thing. They rejoiced, thinking that a stable life was at hand. Zombies are afraid of the human army protecting them, and dare not approach them. But for people from Bianjunwu and several major forces, this is not good news. Because the zombies can't come now, it can only mean that they have been alerted to human beings' plans, so they stop their actions. That night, the crowd once again gathered behind the church to discuss the matter. The group of corpses suddenly stopped moving. Either they retreated, or they sensed our actions, and were secretly planning something. Now, I have to think that the Corpse King's wisdom may be far higher than we thought. Zhang Yi said so. Zhao Hanglian frowned, and said dissatisfiedly, the wisdom shown by these strange things is too high. If there are human beings behind the guidance, I will believe it. If they don't appear all the time, is it possible that we have to stay here all the time? Bian Junwu crossed his arms and asked calmly, is there any news from your respective bases? Everyone shook their heads. No, the base is unusually quiet. Although our people have all gone underground, there are surveillance on the ground. But no corpses were found. Zhang Yi suddenly thought of something, and looked at Bian Junwu. Could it be because you killed a Corpse King? The existence of the Corpse King is obviously special. It can be said to be the core of a group of zombies. Once the Corpse King dies, the group of corpses formed around it will lose order. But now it can be concluded that there must be more than one intelligent Corpse King in Xianhe City. Perhaps there is some special connection between them. Because he killed a Corpse King, the other Corpse Kings were alerted. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486 Mummy. There was no expression on Bian Junwu's face. He just calmly said to everyone, this is just the beginning. Maybe the corpses are still watching, but what we have to do is to wait patiently. It's like fishing. It's more patient than the angler or the fish. No plan is absolutely perfect, and they are just trying, based on the information they have so far. If it fails, try another method. Anyway, if the zombies didn't move, they would have nothing to lose except time. Everyone has no better way. At this time, everyone did not dare to send troops out to investigate. So I had to continue to wait, and plan to wait and see for a while. When the meeting was going on, Zhang Yi secretly looked at the expressions of Zheng Yixin and Yuan Kangai. There was no abnormality on the faces of the two people, which made Zhang Yi feel relieved a lot. It seems that what I did was not exposed. However, he also wondered, is it possible that the so-called forbidden area is not that important? Otherwise, the snow worship cult must have stricter defenses against it. No matter what, Zhang Yi still intends to study the things he obtained. In the middle of the night that day, Zhang Yi woke up a few people and then took out the things he found to show them. After everyone knew that Zhang Yi had broken into the forbidden area of the snow worship sect, although they were a little nervous, they also looked forward to it. People are curious. The feeling of prying into other people's secrets is particularly exciting. Zhang Yi took out the red fruit, branches, and leaves, and the cocoon. When he took out the cocoon, the expressions on the faces of several people were obviously weird. Because of the size of the cocoon, it looks like a person is wrapped inside. Zhang Yi said to Zhao Kenna, you are familiar with using knives here. You are responsible for cutting them open. Zhang Yi's space has all the tools in the laboratory. Here, she can be allowed to dissect and study. Zhao Kenna said, the fruit and branches have to be studied slowly in the laboratory. The environment here is not suitable for development. However, this cocoon is a bit weird. It looks like a mummy. As soon as she said this, everyone nodded. Everyone agreed with her statement. Zhang Yi also hoped that this was a mummy, not an egg. Under the expectant eyes of everyone, Zhao Kenna took out her set of surgical tools. But she didn't rush to dissect it, but took out a small flashlight and hit it on the cocoon. Through the light, everyone could vaguely see what was inside the cocoon. It was obviously a humanoid existence, but it was very thin, as if only bones remained. It's really a mummy. Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief. The corpse is still within the scope of understanding. I seem to understand the function of that thing. Zhang Yi had a guess in his heart. Tell me, what do you think? Liang Yu asked curiously. Zhang Yi smiled and said, let's cut it open first. Maybe it's not that mysterious. Zhao Kenna nodded. She took out the knives. Many sharp pocket knives unfolded. She picked up a handful, and with her slender palms, she cut open the dark red leaves from the head very steadily. Sure enough, after the leaf was cut open, a skinny corpse appeared inside. Zhang Yi recalled that in the abandoned building, thousands of such corpses were densely hung on the wall, and he already knew the function of the plant in his heart. So it is. Under everyone's puzzled eyes, Zhang Yi explained, inside the abandoned building is a huge mutated plant. It should be able to absorb nutrients from the corpse, and then bear this kind of red fruit. We also saw many snow worshippers eating this red fruit. That's probably where their food came from. In other words, their forbidden area is actually a living granary. No wonder they are so careful not to allow any outsiders to approach. After knowing the truth, everyone will inevitably feel a little dull. After all, they don't lack food, and they are not interested in this kind of mutated plant that can feed thousands of people. Of course, this plant is amazing and valuable. It's just that Zhang Yi and the others really don't need it. Zhao Ke poked the corpse with a scalpel, and found that it had been completely drained, with not a trace of flesh and blood left. It seemed that the corpse was indeed completely transformed into nutrients. Zhang Yi said to Zhao Ke again, after you go back, analyze the composition of this fruit, and its branches and leaves to see if there is anything unusual. In fact, Zhang Yi has lost interest in that plant. Just out of the usual caution, I asked Zhao Ke a word. Zhao Ke nodded. Give me some time. This plant is very easy to study. I'll make a slice and observe it with a microscope and biological reagents. On the investigation team's side, Meng Xiaoyu took off his white gloves, looked at the dissected corpse in front of him, and said to Bian Junwu not far away, it's just a corpse that has been drained of nutrients, nothing abnormal. As for the fruit it bears, it has some hallucinogenic effects. It can help the senior management of Snow Worship cult to better control their followers. But no germs were found, and the sugar content is quite high, so it should be considered a nutritious food. Bian Junwu pushed his own toad mirror. I see. When you go back, take a part of the rhizome, and see if the experts in the laboratory can cultivate it. This thing is very useful. Inside the abandoned building, Zhang Yi stood in front of the blood vine, raised his head, and looked at the cocoons hanging upside down. 3968, 3969, 3970. Hey, another one is missing. They are so curious. The next day, there was still no trace of the corpses. This made the haze in everyone's hearts even heavier. The more corpses do not appear, the more likely it means that they are planning a terrorist attack. Bian Junwu has already used the resources in the Jiangnan region to monitor the entire Xianhai city by satellite, trying to find the zombies' movement track. Finally, with the blessing of high technology, they discovered the clues. Bian Junwu called everyone over and told them the latest news. The corpses are gathering, and they are gathering in this direction. Preliminary estimates show that the number is at least 10. You must be prepared. This is a tough battle. 100,000 heads? This number made everyone frown. Their current number of combatants is no more than 2,000. To deal with the group of monsters that are difficult to kill and possibly face the bronze armored corpses whose combat power is comparable to that of high level aliens, this battle is definitely very dangerous. But Zhang Yi said secretly in his heart, there must be more than 100,000 heads. You can only listen to what Bian Junwu says, not believe it all. In order to let everyone act as bait and attract the frontal combat power of the zombie army, he naturally wanted to stabilize everyone. So the number he said must be doubled at least. Even double, triple, even more. Aside from other things, just Zhang Yi found tens of thousands of zombies in the remote sub-canal line. Now the zombies in the entire Xianhai city are gathered here. You will believe that there are millions of troops. But Zhang Yi didn't say it. Anyway, there are few of them, and they can run away at any time. It's a big deal. Take everyone around you and escape from Xianhai city. At least leave the Green Hills without worrying about no firewood. Chapter 487. The corpse wave is coming. Bian Junwu said, you don't need to kill all the corpses. You just need to delay for a while to create opportunities for our investigation team. Once we go deep underground and kill the corpse king, it will be easier to deal with the corpse group without command. Crossing Shine said with emotion, 100,000 zombies, maybe even more. Even if there is no command, it will be very difficult. Even if it is 100,000 pigs, we can't catch them all in 3 days. Get over it. Bayan Junwoo said. It's a good thing that they come more, which means that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to wipe them out in one fell swoop. If it is but now, it will be sweet in the future. Zhao Hanglian put on a straight face, folded his arms and said, I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on for too long, and then we will be submerged by corpses and lose our lives here. Everyone is not stupid, knowing that the zombies that Bayan Junwoo said are unreliable. In fact, it can only be more. In the past, they also had underground bases as a back route. But now when it comes to the snow worship cult, there is nothing behind them but a group of ordinary believers who need their protection. Of course, they have little interest in protecting the congregation. It's just that, once the zombies are released to cross their defense line, there will be major problems in the formation of the 5 forces, and everyone may die here. Therefore, whether they are willing or not, they must go all out to stop the tide of corpses. Bayan Junwoo pushed his sunglasses. If you think defense is too heavy, you can exchange it with others. Or, he glanced at Zhao Hanglian, exchange tasks with us. Zhao Hanglian's expression suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. It is difficult for them to defend against the corpse tide, but compared with the task of the investigation team, it is much easier. 7 people went deep underground, facing an unknown number of bronze armored corpses and a huge group of corpses. Except for the investigation team, there is no other force in Cheyenne City that has such strength and courage. These 7 people are all elites with outstanding combat effectiveness, and the worst ones are at the deputy level of one of the forces. According to the speculation of Zhang Yi and others, at least 3 of them are not weaker than Zhao Hanglian and other power leaders. As for Bayan Junwoo's personal combat power, it is well above all the current aliens in Cheyenne City, at least on the surface. And beside him is a seemingly harmless Vice Captain Bailey Chanking who is actually unpredictable. Zhao Hanglian could only say, I understand. Up to now, we have only one battle. Captain Bayan, all our hopes are entrusted to you. Good to say. Bayan Junwoo said lightly. In the following time, everyone strengthened their defenses, and everyone realized that the biggest battle was coming. At that time, the life and death of the entire Cheyenne City will be decided in a single battle. If they fail, Heishi will completely become a dead city that day. I'm afraid that, when the time comes, the Jiangnan region will choose to use Death of Love to wipe this city off the map. This atmosphere also affected Zhang Yi, who was relatively relaxed at first. For no reason, he began to feel nervous. What should he do if he really fails? Probably he could only go through the double gate, escape with the people around him, and then go back to pick up Yang Xingxin and others, and leave Cheyenne City together. With such a worry, Zhang Yi found Bayan Junwoo. Mr. Bayan, there is a question I don't understand. I wonder if I can ask you for advice? Bayan Junwoo's attitude towards Zhang Yi has always been very good, because he is optimistic about Zhang Yi's potential, and intends to win Zhang Yi to become one of them. Well, what do you want to say? Zhang Yi asked. Now that we have understood the situation in Cheyenne City, we only need to get rid of the Corpse King, and the zombie crisis will end. Then, why don't you apply for reinforcement from the Jiangnan region? I don't have any element of moral kidnapping in it. It's just that with the strength of the Jiangnan region, it shouldn't be too difficult to send a group of elite fighters to eliminate these zombies. Why put us under such enormous pressure now? All cities in the Jiangnan region are under the jurisdiction of the Jiangnan region. Then, the Jiangnan region naturally does not want a large number of deaths in the cities under its rule. People are also extremely precious resources in the last days. Zhang Yi believes that the Jiangnan region does not want too many deaths in Cheyenne City. Otherwise, there is no need for them to send someone over to deal with this crisis. After listening to Zhang Yi's words, Bayan Junwoo suddenly laughed. He turned his head to look at Zhang Yi and asked back, do you think the problem in Cheyenne City is serious? Zhang Yi didn't know how to answer for a while. Is it serious? Of course it's serious. Such a large-scale zombie riot is likely to turn Cheyenne City into a dead city and spread towards the surrounding cities. Isn't it serious? Zhang Yi could only ask back with a smile. Bayan Junwoo said, that's just what you think. He got serious. Listen, Zhang Yi. Although Xianhe City is very big, looking at the entire Jiangnan region, it is just a very ordinary city, nothing special. Within the region as a whole, new problems are emerging every day. Strange people, strange creatures, unknowable strange events. In this mutated era, there are too many situations that are difficult for people to grasp. There are so many things that the district needs to deal with, but the number of investigation teams like ours is limited. So, unless the situation has reached an absolutely uncontrollable state, it is impossible for the region to send a large force to suppress it. He patted Zhang Yi on the shoulder. This world is very big, far more than just Xianhe City. If you go to the outside world one day, you will understand that this place is actually very stable. The area in the hinterland of the central plains, the rivers and lakes, and the famous mountains and rivers are where ghosts are rampant. Zhang Yi's eyes were full of curiosity, but at the same time he was full of resistance to leaving Xianhe City. He shook his head. It's better not to. I'm more family loving, and it's good to stay in Xianhe City. Bian Junwu didn't say much, just smiled lightly. If one day you change your mind, you can contact. He wanted to say contact me, but the word stopped suddenly. Given his physical condition, how long he can live is a question. Let's talk about it. After solving the problem of the corpse group, time passes day by day. There was not a single zombie around the snow worship cult, and there was a dead silence on the ground, which even gave people the feeling that the zombies had disappeared from Xianhe City. Only Zhang Yi and others understand that they have not disappeared, but are gathering strength, preparing to launch a fatal blow to the human forces in Xianhe City. Finally, on the night of the 5th day, the zombies finally came. The first to discover them was the guard post of Bian Junwu. Only they have the satellite positioning capability of the nebula system and can grasp everything happening in Xianhe City in real time. So in the middle of the night on the 5th day, when zombies poured out of the 3 subway entrances around the snow worship cult, he gave everyone a warning. The tide of corpses is coming. The battle begins. Chapter 488. The tide of corpses is coming. They emerged from the 3 subway entrances in a black mass, as if they had stabbed an ant nest, and countless ants came out in a file. It didn't take long for the entire land to be overwhelmed by zombies, and the zombies in the depths of the subway continued to appear. Just a few minutes later, 2 zombies appeared around the snow worship cult. Indistinctly, there are many copper armored corpses that are 2 or 3 times taller than ordinary zombies, and the swarm of rats rushing in the tide of corpses. Although everyone had been mentally prepared for a long time, but seeing such a scene, they still couldn't help cursing their mothers. Bian Junwu and others have already left snow worship sect by car. They are mainly responsible for the beheading operation, and will not participate in frontal combat. Therefore, the positive pressure must be resisted by the 5 major forces. Without further ado, Zhang Yi brought Zhao Ke to St. John's Cathedral and handed her over to Yuan Kanggai. Please protect her. Zhang Yi stared at Yuan Kanggai and said. Yuan Kanggai didn't say anything, but outside the church gate, there were always 2 aliens who were responsible for protecting the safety of the church. With them, even if zombies break through the outer defense line, they can hold on for a while. After Zhang Yi finished all this, he ran back to his post. And outside the snow worship cult, the sound of cannons has already sounded. In order to prepare for this battle, all the major forces took out their wealth. The 3 major Al-Qaeda organizations have placed their inventory of artillery and bazookas on the rear edge of the battlefield. Ordinary guns are not very effective against zombies, but these are much more useful. As long as it is a carbon-based organism, there is no reason to live if it is smashed to pieces. The sound of cannons rumbled, and flares shot up into the sky, illuminating the entire area around snow worship cult like daytime. And under the light, the ground is densely packed, and the countless zombies and rats also make people feel tremendous pressure. Boom. 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 A single shot from the cannon can take away dozens of zombies, blasting holes in the tide of corpses. It's just that this hole will soon be filled by other nearby zombies. Soon, the tide of corpses came more than 1,000 meters away from the defense line. The second line of defense has also been activated. Surrounding the entire snow worship cult, 3 walls of fire were arranged. A large amount of burning material was dumped below. As soon as the tide of corpses approaches, the burning objects will be ignited. The density of the zombie tide is very high. Once the firewall is burned, a series of zombies will be burned to death. Zhang Yi used the double door to get to a high place and then methodically snipe the zombies. There are 10 luggage bags and tens of thousands of bullets under his feet. From his condescending angle, he could more clearly see how much pressure each battlefield around him was facing. How many can I kill with this shot? Zhang Yi sighed, then raised the sniper rifle in his hand. Puff. He shot it out, and a zombie a few kilometers away was immediately headshot, and the head turned into a cloud of blood and exploded. The zombie that lost its head hadn't completely lost its ability to move, but it turned into a headless fly, because it couldn't confirm its direction, and was soon trampled on the soles of its feet by other zombies behind it. Zhang Yi quickly turned the gun, firing almost without any pause. Puff, puff, puff. With the ability of precise shooting, he can destroy a zombie every 2 seconds, making it lose its combat effectiveness. Zhang Yi will turn his guns according to the situation on the battlefield, giving priority to dealing with the nearest corpses. This feeling is like playing a tower defense game. But that kind of pressure can't be simply described by a word game. On such a battlefield, Zhang Yi's personal ability is relatively limited. At best, he killed hundreds of times more zombies than ordinary soldiers, but it was difficult for him to influence the entire battle situation by himself. After all, his ability is not like Bian Junwu. He lacks the kind of large-scale and high-damage killing methods. The corpses braved the guns, jumped over the wall of fire, and rushed towards the defense line roaring. Behind the line of defense, they are greeted by large-caliber heavy machine guns and cannons. Ordinary pistols and rifles can't do much with them. But this kind of thing can penetrate the armor of an armored vehicle, and it can completely tear them apart when hitting a group of corpses. Aim for their legs and hit them. Zhao Hanglian stood at the front line of the battlefield and directed the battle with a serious expression. During these 5 days, humans are also making various plans. The corpse group understands their fighting style, so why aren't they improving their own fighting style? You can't kill zombies, can you? As long as you are crippled, and you can't move, that's it. Blue flames spewed from the muzzle of the heavy machine gun. Da 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 da. The direction of the muzzle was aimed at the legs of the zombies rushing forward. Soon their limbs flew across, and their lower bodies were swept off without any surprise. After the zombie in front fell down, it lost its ability to move, but still roared and crawled forward. But the corpses behind stepped on their corpses and rushed forward. The group of corpses is accelerating, and they are running as fast as wild beasts. And on each line of defense, a large number of fighters are also ready to go, waiting for them. They injected themselves with red military stimulants in advance to allow themselves to fight for a longer period of time. After the nerves are excited, you will not be afraid of pain, and your fear of death will also weaken. They are all the elites of various forces, uniformly wearing combat uniforms with strong defense capabilities. These clothes can even withstand the bullets of ordinary firearms. Even in close combat with zombies, their minions cannot hurt soldiers. The only thing to worry about may be the giant rat's teeth that can bite through steel. Their weapons are not guns, but steel battle axes and thick-backed machetes. The weapons are provided by the King Pu base. They are extremely sharp, and well-trained fighters hold them, and they can chop off the heads of those zombies at once. After the zombies have crossed the front lines of defense, it's time for these fighters to appear on the stage. And the last line of defense is undoubtedly the most powerful aliens of the 5 major forces. Zhang Yi was still on top of the high-rise building, holding a large sniper in his hand, and sniped with one shot after another. Basically, after firing a round of bullets, he will replace his sniper rifle to prevent the barrel from overheating. In the few minutes since the start of the battle, he has killed more than 200 zombies. If this is placed on the human battlefield, it will definitely be a terrifying record. However, for an army of 10,000 plus zombies, it is just a drop in the ocean. But Zhang Yi was not in a hurry. Ordinary zombies were killed casually, but what he was really interested in were the elite bronze armored corpses among the corpses. After the last battle, Zhang Yi had a deep understanding of the defensive power of this thing. Its cortex, muscles, and bones are comparable to steel, and the bullets of a heavy machine gun can hardly cause damage to it. Therefore, Zhang Yi asked Liu Karen to specially prepare large caliber armor piercing bullets for them. Combined with the anti-material sniper rifle and his abilities, can it have a miraculous effect? Chapter 489. The tide of corpses quickly approached the human line of defense. The fully armed human warriors rushed forward with tomahawks and machetes roaring. But those huge bronze armored corpses were not in a hurry, still staying behind the group of corpses. The number of bronze armored zombies is not much. There are 10,000 plus ordinary zombies, but they are only a few hundred. But these hundreds of bronze armored corpses are not weaker than other people in combat power. When seeing them, Zhao Hanglian's scalp felt a little numb. She clearly remembered that it was this thing that tore her subordinate Deng Hu into pieces. There are so many bronze armored corpses, how can we fight them? Zhu Qingting said with a look of astonishment. He originally thought that the number of such bronze armored corpses was very rare, but now there are hundreds of them. Zhao Hanglian raised his eyebrows and shouted in a deep voice, "What are you afraid of? We will kill as many as come." Up to now, there is no room to back down, only to fight to the death. Even if the size of the corpse group and the number of bronze armored corpses are beyond imagination, there is no choice but to fight. The fighting method of the corpse group is very clever. Let the giant rats and ordinary zombies consume human power first. The bronze armored corpse, which is equivalent to an elite zombie, is reserved for later. They didn't know that Zhang Yi had already regarded them as his prey on the tall building. He replaced it with a heavy and huge anti-material sniper rifle, and the special bullets were already loaded. Zhang Yi lay on the balcony, aiming at the triangular head of a huge bronze armored corpse. Its size, to be exact. Give me a little surprise. Boom. The roar of anti-material sniper rifle sounded from behind the battlefield. The armor-piercing projectile made of special materials, blessed with the superhuman ability of the strongest space system in Qianhe City, ruthlessly shot into the head of the copper-armored corpse. The huge impact made it crash to the ground. The defense power of the bronze-armored corpse's skull was astonishing. The bullets didn't even penetrate its skull. But the moment the high-energy bullet entered its cranial cavity, it began to burn its brain. Bronze-armored corpses are obviously different from ordinary zombies. They have a certain degree of consciousness. Or it can be said that they are different from ordinary zombies and have their own lives. The vitality of the bronze-armored corpse was terrifyingly powerful. It roared in pain and swept away dozens of zombies around it before finally dying there. When Zhang Yi saw this scene, the smile on the corner of his mouth was unusually obvious. Sure enough, it was a success. After the predicament he encountered with the bronze armor corpse last time, Zhang Yi spent a lot of time preparing for another battle when he returned to the shelter. According to the information provided by Liang Yu and Uncle Yu, he had a general understanding of the defense of the bronze armored corpse. Then it is to do experiments based on this data to improve the power of sniping. With that shot just now, even if a tank came, he would have pierced through the outer armor. Sure enough, Huang Shan paid off, allowing Zhang Yi to achieve results. Then let's continue. Zhang Yi knew that the bronze armored corpse posed the greatest threat to human forces. So he began to snipe and kill the bronze armored corpses hidden in the crowd of corpses. They are so big that you don't need to look for them at all. Zhang Yi turned the muzzle of the gun and aimed at the eyeballs of the bronze armored corpse. Boom. 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 The roar of the anti-material sniper rifle resounded throughout the entire Snow Worship cult base camp, and the stream of bullets pierced the night sky, and one after another bronze armored corpses fell down among the corpses before they could figure out their situation. Such a scene fell into the eyes of several powerful people. 1 second they were still terrified by the appearance of the bronze armored corpse, and the next second they found out that the copper armored corpse was shot like cutting leaks. Are you able to shoot the bronze armored corpse? Who did this? They looked back along the direction of the bullet, and all they could see was the figure of Zhang Yi holding a sniper rifle on a tall building. Zhao Hanglian, Wei Dinghe and others were astonished. Is this Zhang Yi's strength? They couldn't help but think of the last battle of the 5 armies. Zhang Yi also relied on his own strength to bring them huge troubles and beat them so hard that they didn't dare to show their heads. And this time, Zhang Yi's strength is obviously stronger than last time. Zhang Yi, what a scary man. Zhao Hanglian couldn't help muttering to himself. Wei Dinghe also said with emotion, "Let's not fight against him in the future. Otherwise, he won't know if he will die one day." But now, Zhang Yi is their comrade in arms. The powerful bronze armored corpses were killed one by Zhang Yi, which greatly boosted the morale of the coalition soldiers. Zhang Yi let them know that this seemingly powerful monster is not invincible. The fear of the bronze armor corpses in the hearts of the soldiers disappeared a lot, and they rushed forward to fight with the corpses with roars. And the aliens from various lines of defense also took action. On each line of defense, you can see thousands of soldiers like straw shields, weakly blocking the army of 10,000 plus zombies. But it was this weak shield wall that forcibly blocked the advance of the zombie army. On crossing Shine's side, he was riding on the back of a tall demon wolf, his expression as tough as a piece of indestructible metal. A white light emerged from his unyielding body. The white light covered his whole body and finally spread to all the soldiers behind him. Crossing Shine Legion. This ability covers the entire army, bringing a huge boost to the morale and combat power of the soldiers. Their body shape has even changed visibly with the naked eye, and they are more majestic and multifunctional, and their spirits have been improved several levels. Kill. Holding huge battle axes, they raised their heads to the sky and let out a roar that even overwhelmed the roar of the corpses. Holding a tomahawk taller than him in his right hand and as thick as a door panel, Crossing Shine leaped high from the demon wolf, took the lead, and slammed into the middle of the corpses. The huge battle axe swept across the air, and a huge storm was set off, cutting dozens of zombies around him into two pieces. The leader took the lead in charging, and the others were naturally unwilling to lag behind, roaring and charging with the corpses. And the huge demon wolf also jumped into the group of corpses, exhaling a huge amount of cold air from its mouth, freezing a large group of zombies into ice sculptures. With a violent shake of its body, those ice sculptures were smashed into pieces. Among the 5 major forces, the only ones who dare to fight with corpses in this way are the Bloody Brothers in King Poo base. If we were to say which side had the least pressure, it was the Zhao base that was beyond our expectations. In terms of strength, they are not the strongest among the 5 major forces. Especially after experiencing the Battle of the 5 Armies, half of their combat effectiveness was damaged. However, on the blizzard-filled battlefield, Wading Haze, Ice and Snow Lord, is really too powerful. Maybe I'm not very good at 1v1, but in the field of ice and snow, I'm the king. Wading Haze was covered in frost armor, and raised his hands high. In front of him, within a range of several thousand meters, the snow and ice more than 10 meters thick under the ground burst into pieces. Thousands of zombies were caught off guard, and fell into the snow pit, buried by heavy snow. With Wading Haze's ability, it is not easy to clean up the miscellaneous soldiers. Although these zombies cannot be killed, their purpose tonight is very clear, which is to delay the attack of the zombie tide, and buy time for the investigation team. Wading Haze swept across the battlefield with both hands, and large expanses of snow burst into pieces. His elegant posture is like a conductor, and the ice and snow on the whole land dances with his gestures, so beautiful and gorgeous. Once the hard snow that has been trampled on is broken again, it is very easy to sink into it. What's more, the density of zombies is particularly high. They struggled frantically into the snow, unable to climb out for a while. Chapter 490 Temptation. On the battlefield, the bronze armored corpses that were supposed to be the killers of the corpse tide were killed one by the prepared Zhang Yi. This greatly reduces the pressure on the entire coalition. Otherwise, the coalition forces would have to spend a lot of lives just to deal with these bronze armored corpses whose combat power was comparable to that of aliens. Although the next battle is still dangerous, at least the scene can be maintained. When Zhang Yi was fighting, he had a question in his mind. The fortifications of the snow worship cult are so simple that they are almost nothing. They don't have high walls, no barbed wire, and rely on a group of fearless congregants and most aliens. How did they not be wiped out by the corpses for such a long time? It's really puzzling. As Zhang Yi spoke, he turned his gun and killed a bronze armored corpse in the tide of corpses 10,000 plus zombie army. The number is too much. He killed more than a dozen bronze armored corpses one after another, but they had no way to communicate with each other, so they couldn't take precautions. There are too many, and they can only execute simple commands. Maybe it's Kill everyone here. The 5 forces are in front to resist the frontal attack of the corpse tide. But Bayan Junwoo and the others went around to the rear of the corpse tide just like last time. They used satellites to observe the movements of the zombies from a distance. The number of zombies emerging from the subway tunnels quickly reached 10,000 plus, and they are even continuing to emerge. Such a terrifying scene. Anyone who saw it could not help but gasp. How many are there? There shouldn't be millions of them. Kang Sheng said with some worry. I don't know how long they can hold off the tide of corpses. Woody crossed his arms and said with a sneer, don't worry, they will definitely resist desperately in order to survive. As long as we can buy time for us to deal with the Corpse King underground, it doesn't matter, even if they kill them all. Woody didn't care about the lives of these people in Chionhae City. He only cares about whether he can complete the task. Preventing the corpses from continuing to expand and spreading towards the surrounding area is what they in the top management of the Jiangnan region are most concerned about. The life and death of a few people is not important in the face of the overall situation. Bayan Junwoo didn't refute Woody's words. He just watered glasses and looked at the front with a cold expression. I don't know how long it took, but there are no more zombies in the depths of the subway tunnel. He glanced at the land in the distance, where a large black mass of zombies gathered in the snow cult camp. Then Bayan Junwoo said, let's go. It's time for us to do it. The tide of corpses underground is terrifying, but they know that the number of zombies underground is definitely not too small. That kind of intelligent white-haired monkey is very afraid of death, and it will leave a lot of fighting power to protect itself. Therefore, although Woody's words sound ugly, in fact their mission is the most dangerous. A few soldiers from the frontier army came to the tunnel. First asked Meng Xiaoyu to check the situation in the tunnel with his investigative ability, and then slowly pushed forward. After Meng Xiaoyu investigated, he came to a conclusion. There are still a terrifying number of corpses below, as well as a lot of bronze armor corpses. Bayan Junwoo said coldly, it's a trap. They have suffered a loss before, and they also know that we will use this tactic to conduct beheading operations. So, these damn beasts are plotting against us. The learning speed of the Corpse King is frightening. Perhaps their brains are not so different from ours. Then what should we do? Bailey Chanking asked. If there were too many zombies below, it would be very dangerous for the 7 of them to rush in rashly. The key point is that, if you can't kill the Corpse King, then everything tonight will be in vain. Hold on. Bayan Junwoo said in a deep voice. They can last for a long time. Let them attract more zombies. So the 7-member team did not act in a hurry, but continued to wait and see. The pressure continues to come to the coalition forces. Although there is Zhang Yi's long-range sniper to assist, but the number of zombies is too much. According to a rough estimate, no less than 20 zombies have appeared on the battlefield. And that's not counting those annoying giant rats. The battle situation became more and more tragic, and the zombies fell down row after row like leaks. Human soldiers also began to suffer a large number of casualties. The difference in numbers was still too large, and coupled with the defense-breaking ability of giant rats, they could bite through their combat uniforms, causing huge troubles for the soldiers. If it weren't for the support of a large number of aliens, this weak line of defense would not have survived 5 minutes. Seeing the situation at the scene, Zhang Yi also mobilized Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Fatty Zhu to support the weak links. As for Huahua, she stayed beside Zhang Yi as usual. In a sense, Huahua is Zhang Yi's most trusted bodyguard with a sword. Its melee capability is very strong, its maneuverability is strong, and its defense is comparable to that of a chariot. With it, Zhang Yi would not worry about being attacked, and it is more convenient when running away. Zhang Yi was not so pure as to put all his strength into the battle against the tide of corpses. The first thing he wants to ensure is the safety of his own group of people inside the church. Yuan Kanggai stood in front of the crucifix, clasped his hands calmly, and silently recited prayers. The shouts and gunfire from outside came here very clearly. The faces of the congregants hiding in the church were full of tension. But Yuan Kanggai's face was still so peaceful. It was as if everything outside had nothing to do with her. Zhao Kenna was sitting on a chair in the church, with her medicine box beside her. Although she does not believe in religion, she also silently prays to the gods in her heart. God, if you really exist, Please bless Zhang Yi and the others to be safe. She crossed her hands and read softly. At this moment, a cold voice sounded above her head. Only the most devout believers will be blessed by the gods. Zhao Ke raised her head and met Yuan Kangai's cold and bright eyes. She felt that Yuan Kangai's eyes had a kind of soul-stirring power, which made people want to immerse themselves in it. Hello. Zhao Ke greeted with a smile and looked away from Yuan Kangai's gaze. Yuan Kangai looked at her deeply and suddenly said, "Are you very distressed in your heart and feel that you have no way to help your man?" Zhao Ke's expression was a little unnatural when his mind was exposed. She touched her neck and said with a smile, "Maybe there are some. I'm a doctor and can only work in the rear. It is impossible to go to the battlefield with him." Yuan Kangai's seductive voice came. "Perhaps you also have the potential to become an alien." This sentence made Zhao Ke's heart skip a beat. The alien is the existence she very much desires to be. In the past, this feeling was not obvious, but since Yang Mi also awakened the ability, her desire for the ability became stronger and stronger. Once upon a time, she too was an independent woman. He has a good family background and education, and is well known in the medical field. Relying on his own strength and family background at a young age, he became the attending doctor of the #1 civilian hospital in Xianhe City. What now? She felt that she was less and less present by Zhang Yi's side. This is a reality she doesn't want to accept. Even though Zhang Yi has always been kind to her, she understands that Zhang Yi is not a person who puts feelings first. If one day, her role is replaced by a better person, then the distance between her and Zhang Yi will definitely become farther and farther. She has to think. Zhang Yi has been improving, but what about her? Zhao Ke's thoughts were uncovered by Yuan Kangai, which made her eyes flicker. But Zhang Yi reminded her to be careful of those who worship the Snow Sect. So Zhao Ke was relatively indifferent to Yuan Kangai's words. Really? It's the first time I've heard anyone say that. She smiled politely, but Yuan Kangai made an intimate gesture, reaching out to caress her cheek. Don't underestimate your potential. Many times, all you lack is an opportunity. Believe in yourself. You have the potential to become a different person. Zhao Ke's heart skipped a beat. Yes, she may also have the potential to become an alien. Before, she felt that the conditions for becoming an alien were relatively harsh, and she had to try with her own life. Once it fails, it will be the end of death. She doesn't have such courage. However, the appearance of Bing Pio pointed out a new path for her. Yuan Kangai stared at her with an inexplicable charm in those clear and cold eyes. It's just that, when people see her eyes, they will have a feeling of being overwhelmed by a powerful force, and they will unconsciously want to obey her orders. We need power now. Your man needs your help too. Zhao Ke, I can make you a stranger. Are you willing to accept it? Yuan Kangai said. Zhao Ke's heartbeat quickened. She knew that the woman in front of her had the power to help others awaken their abilities. But she also knew that this woman was very mysterious and could not be easily believed. Zhao Ke only hesitated for a few seconds before the inner fluctuation calmed down. Thank you, I don't really need it. Zhao Ke narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly at Yuan Kangai. When Yuan Kangai saw this, a look of disappointment flashed in his eyes. It's okay, you can think about it slowly. Come to me when you change your mind. The blessing of the gods is an opportunity. Not everyone has the opportunity. After all, Yuan Kangai turned around and continued to pray to the statue in front of him. On a chair at the back of the church, Li Jian's family of 3 and Zubibai sat there. As non-combatants, they are also important mid-level and high-level members of the snow worship cult, and they have obtained privileges to enter here to receive protection. Li Kao was unwilling to face Yuan Kangai, the woman who took away his happiness, its hatred, and its fear. So he kept wrapping himself tightly in a blanket. Zubibai sat beside him, holding his hand, encouraging him silently. The sound of the war outside is getting louder, and the screams of the corpse tied in the rat's warm are so scary that, even if you cover your ears, it will still echo in your head. And all they can do now is to pray for the armed forces ahead to win this victory. Chapter 491. On the periphery of snow worship cult, the battle on the battlefield quickly entered a fierce stage. There is no extra fancy, there is only one way for the corpse group to attack, and that is to rely on the number to pile up. An army of more than 20 zombies surrounded the entire snow worship cult camp, launching a violent attack from all directions. The human camp is relying on all the means they have to block. Cannon fire, traps, abilities, melee combat. All methods are used. They knew they couldn't retreat. The entire formation was hollow. They were already surrounded, and there was no way out. There is only a fight to the death, dragging them to the frontier army to complete the beheading operation. The battlefield is full of flying flesh and blood. The zombies were smashed to pieces, but even with only half of their body left, they still roared and crawled forward. Human soldiers rely on sophisticated weapons, and one person can replace hundreds of zombies. But if they are not careful, they will be overwhelmed by a large number of zombies. Even if zombies can't bite his protective clothing, they can crush people to death just by numbers. Not to mention there are giant rats that can break defenses. Zhang Yi finished killing almost all the bronze armored corpses on top of the tall building. This kind of powerful sniper ability is more terrifying when it is on the battlefield. It can even be said that he alone shared at least % of the pressure of the coalition forces. Otherwise, once those bronze armored corpses with amazing defensive power join the battlefield, the human defenses will quickly collapse. 20 minutes passed in a flash. The coalition forces fought and retreated. After every wave of retreat, a large number of traps will be prepared behind, with incendiary materials and explosives buried inside, which can eliminate a large wave of zombies. The defensive circle is getting smaller and smaller, and the degree of staff reduction has reached 30%. Zhao Hanglian gritted his teeth, and contacted Bayan Junwu. Our side can hardly hold on anymore. How is your side? And Bayan Junwu said coldly, we are about to find the Corpse King. If you persist for a while, there will be results soon. After receiving this news, the coalition forces held a glimmer of hope in their hearts, and continued to guard hard. But Bayan Junwu, who ended the conversation, was still outside, not going deep underground at all. He was still waiting for a large number of zombies ambushing inside to appear. With such a large-scale battle of the corpse tide, Bayan Junwu concluded that the Corpse King was unwilling to lose this battle. Therefore, as long as Zhang Yi and others persisted long enough, the Corpse King would definitely send more zombies to support them. They need to compete who can bear it more. Moreover, it is impossible for the Corpse King to conclude that this is a trap. As long as they give the opportunity, the beheading action of the 7 frontier soldiers will have a chance to be executed. The battlefield ahead has been brutally killed. Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Fatty Zhu acted as a special operations team to support them everywhere. Fortunately, Looming in Liang Yu's hand was made of Edmund metal, otherwise he would have been smashing zombies long ago. She was like a human-shaped storm, slashing and turning among the corpses, dancing wildly with a turbulent knife, and could tear dozens of zombies to pieces with one slash. Uncle Yu's defense is strong, but in the face of a large number of zombies, he mainly relies on 2 huge Gatling cannons to kill them. The only good news is that Zhang Yi and the others have plenty of ammunition. But at this time, Fatty Zhu played a huge role. His blowing snow is a powerful ability with strong comprehensive ability, especially strong field control ability. Although not as powerful as wading haze, Ice and Snow Lord, it has the powerful stealth attack ability. But in terms of field control, wading hay can't even compare to him. This means that the ruler is shorter and the inches longer. Relying on his own strength, Fatty Zhu was able to cover the group of corpses within a few kilometers with ice and snow, greatly slowing down their speed of movement. This also creates a good opportunity for others to kill zombies. Although Zhang Yi's team is small in number, they are very active on the battlefield, and their role is not inferior to any other team, or even better. In a blink of an eye, half an hour passed. Every minute and every second is a huge torment, which once made people feel hopeless. But they had no way to retreat, so they turned into outlaws one by one, fighting to the death with the tide of corpses. In such a frantic battle, the attack of the corpse group was slowly delayed. Although their advancing momentum remains unchanged, the smaller the coalition forces shrink, the more difficult it is for them to attack. It's just that at this time, ordinary congregants in the church area began to suffer casualties. No matter how tight the defense circle is, some zombies will always slip through the net. Moreover, no one still cares about the life and death of those ordinary congregants. Although Snow Worship Cult made preparations in advance and moved them to high-rise buildings and deep in the subway, but these zombies and giant rats are extremely sensitive to the breath of living people. A small number of zombies who passed through the defense line entered the hiding place of the Snow Worshippers. Here, there are no armed personnel with strong combat effectiveness. 3 or 4 zombies can quickly kill a whole floor of believers. With screams one after another, they struggled to run to the window and called for help from the armed forces outside. Zhang Yi and others turned a deaf ear to their cries for help because they simply don't have the ability to rescue them by themselves. They are very reluctant to protect themselves. Even people like Zhang Yi could only lament, return to the kingdom of God, then ignore them. At this moment, it was already very difficult for them to block the group of corpses in front of them. If the troops were further divided to manage the sporadic zombies behind, the entire line of defense would fall. Zhang Yi saw the dozen or so zombies that sneaked in. He frowned slightly and hesitated for a while, then turned his gun and shot them to death one by one. He is not very concerned about the life and death of the Snow Worshippers. But now, large-scale turmoil in the rear is absolutely not allowed. If ordinary congregants run around because of fear, it may affect the frontline combat teams. However, the number of zombies breaking through the defense line is increasing. Because after hitting the back, it has entered the stage of hand-to-hand combat. It's been 4 or 10 minutes. What's going on with you guys? Zhang Yi and Crossing Shine were a little anxious. We agreed to stick to it for half an hour. Why are the zombies still attacking so fiercely now? There are also a lot of corpses underground. If you hold on for another 10 minutes, we'll get rid of them in no time. Bayan Junwoo's cold voice annoyed Zhang Yi and the others. But now, they can only choose to believe. As the battle circle continued to shrink, the areas where ordinary congregants hid could only be abandoned. But this way, there is also an advantage. Zombies are all aimed at the living, and they are extremely sensitive to the breath of the living. And the place where a large number of believers gathered attracted most of the zombies to rush over. In this way, the pressure on the combat troops is greatly reduced. It can even be said that from the very beginning, these people were the bait in the frontier military plan. In order to complete the task of eliminating the hordes, everything can be sacrificed. The screams resounded everywhere in the Snow Worship Cult. Ordinary congregants who lost the protection of the combat troops had no resistance in the face of the raging tide of corpses and rats. Soon they were reduced to rations for corpses and rats. Just when Zhang Yi heaved a sigh of relief and thought he could delay for a while, Hua next to him suddenly pricked up his ears vigilantly, whining and showing his sharp fangs. Chapter 492 Collapse. Holding a sniper rifle in his hand, Zhang Yi has been condescendingly killing enemies in all directions. In his opinion, as long as any enemy tried to get close, he would definitely not be able to escape his gaze. But there was one direction that he neglected. Meow. Hua beside him suddenly roared, and then quickly grew bigger, blocking Zhang Yi's body. Zhang Yi was a little surprised, not knowing why Hua had such a reaction. But he realized in less than half a second that someone must be approaching. Call. A gust of wind passed over him. Hua suddenly jumped up and rushed to the sky. Zhang Yi raised his head. The sight in front of him made his pupils shrink. Above the night, more than a dozen humanoid creatures with wings appeared. They have bat-like wings and a slender body. It turned out to be more than a dozen bronze-armored corpses with wings. Is it a new species again? These things are hidden deep enough. Zhang Yi stared at the sky sharply. Hua had already culled with a bronze-armored flying corpse, and then fell to the roof of the building by pressing it. Other flying corpses are already coming towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi hurriedly opened the huge dimensional door in front of him, then raised his gun and shot. 2 flying corpses rushed into the gate of the dimension unsuspectingly, and 1 flying corpse was instantly sniped by Zhang Yi. Seeing this, the remaining flying corpses quickly circled in the sky. They are looking for opportunities and want to get rid of Zhang Yi. Since most of the bronze-armored corpses on the ground were killed by Zhang Yi, they had already set their sights on Zhang Yi and tried to kill Zhang Yi. Fortunately, Zhang Yi brought bodyguards and did not give them a chance to sneak attack. On the roof, the roar of the bronze-armored flying corpse was covered by Hua's cry. Meow. Meow. Hua's sharp claws clawed wildly at it, and its steel-like body was torn apart by it. The bronze armored corpse was torn to pieces by Hua Hua, and the dead could not die again. Seeing this scene, the remaining dozen or so flying corpses had fearful looks in their eyes. They fly very fast, and it is not convenient for Zhang Yi to aim. But at this distance, Zhang Yi's divine power can kill them, and the defensive range of the double door is also extremely large. If you really can't fight, just run. So he is not afraid. But those bronze armored flying corpses were obviously apprehensive. After hesitating for a while, they suddenly flew in other directions. They are heading towards the coalition forces. Oops. Zhang Yi hurriedly shouted in the communication channel. There is a flying bronze armor corpse on it. Be careful. The speed of these flying corpses is too fast, and they have already defended against Zhang Yi's sniper attack, so it is no longer easy to snipe them quickly. Their attacks from the air posed a huge threat to the coalition forces. Even with Zhang Yi's reminder, they still quickly killed a large number of soldiers. Moreover, Zhang Yi saw from a high altitude that a large number of zombies were attacking here on the ground in the distance. The quantity must be at least 10,000 plus. It's hard to deal with it now. Bian Junwu can only rely on you. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. The first wave of corpses had almost collapsed their defenses, and now there are bronze armored flying corpses in the second wave of corpses. With the strength of the coalition forces, it is absolutely impossible to clean up these zombies, unless Bian Junwu can successfully complete the beheading operation. Otherwise, Zhang Yi can only choose to take his own people and escape. Zhang Yi turned on the team's communication voice and told them the news. Stop fighting in the front, back up, and be ready to retreat with me at any time. If it's just a few of them, there is still a chance to escape by relying on the shuttle ability of the double door. And once Ban Junwu and the others fail to behead them, everyone who stays here today will not even think about living. After explaining them, the first thing Zhang Yi thought of was Zhao Keller in the church. He immediately planned to go to find Zhao Keller. But when he turned his gaze to the church, he saw two bronze armored flying corpses swooping down from the sky above the church. Fuck. Zhang Yi couldn't help swearing. He felt his blood was cold. Although there were alien defenses around the church, no one thought that they would encounter air raids. At this time, two bronze armored flying corpses rushed into the church, killing everyone in less than half a minute. Zhao Keller is also very likely to face the threat of death. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi activated the double doors to shuttle through. With this distance, he needed to shuttle 3 times in a row to get to the church. And the screams had already come from inside the church. Just when Zhang Yi was about to reach the church, a piercing white light burst out from the church. As fast as the two bronze armored flying corpses went in, they came out as fast. They were blown out of the ceiling and covered with a thick layer of ice, like 2 huge ice sculptures. Is there a master in the church? Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief, but it was very reasonable to think about it carefully. How could Snow Worship Cult let the leader Yuan Kangai stay alone in the church without sending someone to protect her? The two bronze armored flying corpses fell to the ground. The ice shells on their bodies shattered, and they got up from the ground again, roaring towards the church with eyes full of dread. The aliens of the Snow Worship Cult who were guarding the door of the church immediately waited in full force, fighting with the bronze armored flying corpse. Zhang Yi didn't have the mind to care about these things. He took a step forward and entered the church through the double doors. There was also chaos in the church at this time. The congregants hiding here were terrified, and many people on the ground crowded together. In the center of the church, Yuan Kangai stood there, letting the light through the hole in the ceiling shine on her. Quiet, peaceful, and there is a sacred aura lingering around her. Zhang Yi glanced at her and thought in his heart, could it be that she is a master hidden by the snow cult? This is somewhat surprising, but within reason. It is not surprising that the leader of Snow Worship Cult possesses great strength. Zhang Yi's eyes quickly fell on Zhao Keller, who was holding the medicine box and hid beside a white pillar with a terrified expression. Without saying a word, Zhang Yi walked up to her and held her in his arms. It's okay, I'm here. It was this sentence that made Zhao Keller's tense body suddenly soften. With Zhang Yi around, she felt extremely at ease in her heart. Yuan Kangai looked at Zhang Yi in surprise. She didn't seem to understand why Zhang Yi suddenly appeared here out of thin air. But after thinking about it carefully, she realized something in her heart. It seems that Zhang Yi used a kind of ability to travel through space. With this rare ability, she couldn't help but look at Zhang Yi a few more times. The sounds of killing and screams outside were closer. The door bang bang. A group of congregants who were hunted down by zombies ran here to seek the shelter of Yuan Khan Guy. Zhang Yi, can't you keep it? Zhao Ke asked nervously. Zhang Yi had a stern expression on his face. He just said, don't be afraid, follow me. Zhang Yi didn't bother to hide his ability at this time. He directly opened the double door and took Zhao Ke out of the church. As for the life and death of other people, he doesn't have the heart to care about it now, or to put it a bit helplessly, he doesn't have the ability to save too many people. Zhang Yi took Zhao Ke's hand and went outside. It was already a mess outside. More and more zombies and giant rats crossed the line of defense. On the front line, Zhao Hanglian and others are still guarding hard, preventing everyone from being completely drowned by the tide of corpses. With a cold face, Zhang Yi dragged Zhao Ke to the top of the building. Huahua was still here, and there were broken corpses of a bronze-armored flying corpse on the ground. It's just that Huahua didn't eat its brain. Maybe this means that this thing is still different from other people, and it's not a mutant creature. It's a very special kind of creation. Zhang Yi looked down at the surroundings from a high altitude, and the battle situation was getting more and more critical. Although the alien legion will not be surrounded and killed by zombies, but ordinary soldiers have begun to die in large numbers. Going forward, the alien's ability energy will be exhausted, and he will be culled by the corpses. Fortunately, Zhang Yi and the others have supernatural food to replenish energy, and they still maintain plenty of supernatural powers and physical strength to fight. But if this continues, it is still not a long-term solution. Bayan Junwu. Zhang Yi read this name. He knew that the beheading operation of Bayan Junwu and others must not be so smooth. But this is also impossible. After all, in this battle, they were facing all the corpses in Xianhe City. Zhang Yi, what shall we do? Zhao Ke looked down, seeing zombies coming in from all directions. They have no way of escape. Those congregants hiding in the tall buildings were killed by zombies climbing upstairs. Congregants hiding in underground garages and shopping malls were also blocked by corpses below. Snow worship evolved into a scene of hell on earth. If the state continues, at most 10 minutes, the line of defense will be completely defeated. Except for Zhang Yi and the others who still have a chance to escape, everyone else must die. Zhang Yi could see that everyone on the battlefield had gone crazy. Zhao Hanglian burned a large number of zombies into coke on the battlefield with white flames. Wading Haze ice and snow lord can affect the zombies in a large area, but the zombies in front have just been dealt with, and the zombies behind rushed up again. Even for the Xingtian Legion, which is full of fighting spirit, with the exhaustion of a lot of physical strength, the white fighting spirit on their bodies is also weakening. Get ready to retreat. Once the defense line falls, I will take you away immediately. Zhang Yi said to Fatty Zhu, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu through the communicator. Fatty Zhu was humming, panting from exhaustion. He cried out in a crying voice, Boss, I can't stand it anymore. Come and save me. Zhang Yi found Fatty Zhu's position in the crowd. As a stranger in the control department, he naturally had several soldiers protecting him, but the tide of corpses around them was about to submerge them, and Fatty Zhu, who was as timid as a mouse, had already turned pale with fright. Zhang Yi immediately ordered Huahua to go down, and picked up Fatty Zhu from the tide of corpses. Huahua suddenly jumped down from dozens of stories of buildings, splashing a large amount of ice and snow, and then ran amok among the corpses, and soon came to Fatty Zhu, grabbed his collar, and brought him back. Fatty Zhu sat down on the ground, panting heavily, with an expression of the rest of his life after a catastrophe. But Zhang Yi didn't sit on the sidelines. He took out a large number of grenades and explosives from his body, and began to throw them in the direction where the corpses would insist. So far, he can only help other people relieve pressure as much as possible. After all, his ability does not have the function of clearing the field on a large scale. Although Camu is powerful, its range is somewhat short. Even if hundreds of zombies were killed at once, it would not help the situation in front of them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493. The battle is over. Just when Zhang Yi was about to give up and planned to escape with his own people, a strange change suddenly occurred on the battlefield. All the zombies suddenly stopped their movements in an instant. It's as if the batteries of the toys were suddenly pulled out, and they didn't even attack the people in front of them. The next moment, they all made a uniform movement, that is, turned around and ran desperately in the direction they came from. It doesn't matter whether it's a bronze armored flying corpse, a copper armored corpse, or an ordinary zombie. They turned a blind eye to the enemies in front of them. They only needed a few more attacks before they had a chance to completely take down the largest stronghold of human beings in Shanghai City. But without the slightest hesitation, they turned around and ran away. When they came, they were like tides, but when they retreated, they rushed like a landslide. There was no order, and every zombie was running back desperately, with eager screams from their throats, as if they had encountered something more important than life and death. Seeing this scene, Zhao Hanglian immediately showed joy on his face. Because of the same scene, she had seen it with her own eyes a few days ago. Bian Junwu and the others found the Corpse King. They are going back to save the Corpse King. Among the corpses, as the commander, the Corpse King can control all zombies. So when they encounter a life and death crisis, they will desperately call all the zombies to rescue them. This kind of reaction on the battlefield can only show that Bian Junwu and the others have found the Corpse King and brought a huge threat to the Corpse King, forced it to recall the army. In the battlefield, everyone is very tired at this time, except Zhang Yi, who is still relaxed. Just now, they brushed shoulders with the god of death and almost became the rations of the corpses. After the wave of corpses receded, the group of rats reacted a little slower, but they were also very cunning, as a symbiotic relationship with the group of corpses turned around and left with the group of corpses. No one dared to pursue them. They were all tense strings now, and no one dared to touch the corpses again, for fear that they would turn around and continue to attack. But as the group of corpses gradually receded and became a long and narrow black line at the end of the horizon, everyone dared to take a deep breath. Ha ha ha. Woo woo. Am I still alive? Am I still alive? Or dead? In the entire snow worship cult camp, the sound of panting, crying, and laughing was everywhere. The feeling of surviving after a catastrophe is too intense. Although there are many people present who have experienced many battles, no one has experienced such a desperate battle. They can accept being beaten to death, but they don't want to face the pain of being eaten alive by zombies and giant rats. Zhao Hanglian tried to cheer up and said to everyone, "You can't relax now. Everyone can sit down and rest on the spot, but be prepared to fight. There may be remnants of corpses and giant rats." With Zhao Hanglian's reminder, several other forces followed suit. Everyone was so scared that they didn't even dare to relax completely. Zhang Yi saw that many soldiers were in a daze. This battle tonight will definitely leave a lifetime of unforgettable memories for many people. Post-war traumatic stress syndrome is also inevitable. I hope they will not be awakened by dreaming about corpses in their sleep in the future. Zhao Ke hugged Zhang Yi tightly. Only then did he dare to take a big breath, and even his chest heaved violently. This point is particularly obvious to Zhang Yi. Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, Fatty Zhu and Hua gathered in front of Zhang Yi. The three of them all kept in mind Zhang Yi's advice. It's okay to contribute, but they must reserve their physical strength so that they can escape at any time. So none of them were hurt. Uncle Yu played with the bronze armored corpse a few times, but his skin is rough and fleshy, and his self-healing ability is too strong, so he is now unscathed. I don't know how long it took. It seemed like a long time, or maybe a very short few minutes. At this moment, every second seems extremely long to everyone. Zhang Yi looked at the entire battlefield, and the death rate of the soldiers they left behind to defend at the beginning had already exceeded 8%. The entire Shanghai city was completely destroyed after this battle. Especially in terms of combat power, the loss cannot be simply described with the word painful. However, this is not a bad thing for Zhang Yi. At least in this battle, their team did not suffer any casualties. However, if it is really miserable, it is not the turn of several major Al-Qaeda organizations and Zhang Yi. Instead, worship the Snow Sect. Because the war took place within their territory. At this time, there were so few crying around, and there were probably less than 1,000 of the 5,000 congregants left. No, maybe even 500 is enough. It was precisely because of this that the faces of Zhang Yi and other senior officials of the snow worship cult were very gloomy. Everyone is outside, still staying in their defensive positions. It's just that no one spoke. Not a word was said. At this time, no words can express the mood of everyone. Because in the face of such a battle and the loss of so many people, the most basic human emotions will disappear for a short time. Zhang Yi looked around with no extra expression on his face. Zhao Ken's voice suddenly came from next to his ear. Zhang Yi, are you injured? Would you like me to take a look for you? Zhang Yi looked at the gentle female doctor next to him, but he couldn't smile, so he just said, no. Zhao Ken asked the others again, and everyone was fine. Zhao Ken tightened the belt of the medicine box and asked Zhang Yi, can I go and show them the injury? The ones she was referring to were, of course, survivors of the battlefield. At this time, although many people were alive, they had injuries of varying severity. Zhang Yi did not refuse either. At least for now they are on the same side. Moreover, after this battle, it is difficult for these major forces in Xianhe City to form a large scale, let alone pose a threat to them. It is even possible that they will form an alliance to deal with possible future crises. Zhao Ke carried a medical kit on her back, looking for the wounded on the battlefield, bandaging their wounds, and injecting them with medicine. Her serious appearance and gentle and skillful technique made many numb soldiers burst into tears. They sensed the human warmth in Zhao Ke. It makes them feel alive, not in hell. One after another, each family began to get their own supplies. Food, medicine, bandages, blankets, army coats. Although everyone dared not go to sleep yet, they could basically conclude that the corpses would not come back again, so the wounded should be allowed to rest first. Yuan Kangai walked out with the survivors in the church. During this battle, they were well protected. Although there was a small episode, no one was injured. Yuan Kangai looked at the crowd with compassion and then said to the survivors, go and take care of them. They are great fighters. Everyone also knows that it is not easy for them to survive, and it is inseparable from the desperate struggle of the frontline soldiers. Therefore, those who can still move enthusiastically came to the wounded to take care of them. This also includes Li Jian, his wife and Zubibi. As for Li Kao, his physical fitness has become very poor since that time, and he has not recovered, so he was left in the church. Li Jian looked at the Shurafield in front of him, and felt extremely painful in his heart. Most of the neighbors he brought to the snow worship cult had died in repeated zombie attacks. A look of remorse inevitably appeared on his face. Zhang Jianfang comforted, don't be too sad, you have tried your best. In this era, we can only live day by day. This is not your fault. Li Jianchang sighed and walked over to help others carry the stretcher for the wounded soldier. And the girl Zubibi was also active on the battlefield, tying bandages to the wounded soldiers and sending them hot water to keep them warm. Bitter victory. After a long time, Bian Junwu and the others came back. The figures of the 7 people were a bit embarrassed, not as calm as they used to be. Bailey Chanking supported Wu Di. That Wu Di, who used to be arrogant, now has a face like gold paper, and his feet are floating, as if he has no strength. Kang Sheng, a power-enhancing system user, had bandages on his shoulders, and one arm was already twisted into a twisted shape. Obviously, he suffered serious injuries during the battle. The bodies of the 7 people were dripping with blood, and their injuries varied in depth. But there are relaxed smiles on their faces. Obviously, the challenges they faced in carrying out the beheading operation would not be easier than those of Zhang Yi. But they succeeded. When the investigation team came to the snow worship camp, Bian Junwu took a look at the people who were still alive, without much expression on his face. They won this battle miserably. Everyone tried their best. It was not easy. There is no need to say redundant words of comfort. Zhang Yi walked over and asked Bian Junwu, have all the corpse kings been killed? Byung Jun-woo still replied coldly, "There were 5 in total. All of them were killed by us. The bodies are in the car." "That's good." After receiving Byung Jun-woo's affirmative answer, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After losing the command of the Corpse King, the remaining zombies in Cheyenne City are nothing but scattered sand. At least there is no need to worry about their large-scale activities like before. Then it will be dealt with one by one. Zhang Yi thought for a while and took out some supernatural food from the different space and handed it to Byung Jun-woo. "This is?" Byung Jun-woo's tone reveals curiosity. "The food made by other people can help people recover their abilities, physical strength, and mental state. It is very useful." Zhang Yi smiled. Hearing this, Byung Jun-woo also showed a subtle smile, but his smile was ugly. "It seems you have a good accessibility in human." He was not polite, took the food from Zhang Yi, and then returned to the snowmobile with several team members. As for the others, after getting the exact news that the Corpse King was completely wiped out, everyone can relax and take a rest. Because they were too tired, no one wanted to talk too much. The combatants returned to their resting places, and those who had not fought before were responsible for feeding and treating them. Nothing to say that night. After resting for a day, everyone's mental state and physical state have recovered a lot. However, there are too many wounded, and it is impossible to leave in the current situation. Therefore, everyone still decided to stay in the snow worship cult camp and go back after resting. There is another problem, that is, there are still a large number of zombies in Cheyenne City. Even if they lose the control of the Corpse King, they still have the instinct to attack humans. At this moment, it is safest for everyone to gather together. Zhang Yi and the others could have left, but under the plea of Byung Jun-woo, Zhang Yi did not leave. Now they are the most powerful team on the coalition side. Byung Jun-woo hopes that they can protect everyone until everyone recovers before leaving. Although Zhang Yi desperately hoped to return to the shelter at this time, he lay on his big soft bed with Zhao Keller in his arms and fell asleep. But he still has to give the face of the Jiangnan region. So Zhang Yi and the others stayed and were mainly responsible for cleaning up the scattered zombies around the camp. This work is very easy for Zhang Yi and the others. The small group of corpses only looked like a few thousand heads. Without the control of the Corpse King, they could only move instinctively, and their combat effectiveness was not very strong. It can be easily solved by joining forces with several strangers. After a few days, everyone can clearly feel that the problem of zombies has become less serious. Then they can slowly clean up. Byung Jun-woo and the others are also observing, and they will return to the Jiangnan region after confirming that there is no more large-scale corpse tide in Cheyenne City. After many days of fighting side by side, the relationship between the 5 major forces that got along has also undergone significant changes. It is also a bit funny to say. Today's 5 major powers probably have nothing to do with the word big. Their respective core combat power lost more than 8% in this battle, and their strength was greatly damaged. Fortunately, the attacks of the corpse tide were indiscriminate. In addition to attacking them, other small and medium-sized forces in Cheyenne City also suffered disaster. Otherwise, after this war, it is difficult to say whether they can keep their respective territories. However, in a dead city with few living people, no matter how big your territory is, it may be difficult to give people a pleasant feeling. Therefore, the feeling of tension between the 5 major forces in the past disappeared. Everyone feels a little sympathetic to each other, and even feels like they are the same people who have fallen in the end of the world. Zhang Yi's feeling is the most obvious, because several other companies have been expressing their favor to them during this time. Among the 5 major forces, Zhang Yi and the others suffered the smallest losses. It can even be said that Zhang Yi had nothing to lose except for a large amount of ammunition in this war, and weapons and ammunition are not valuable things. Zhang Yi has his own arsenal, and Liu Karen, a mechanical master, keeps making it for him. So for a long time in the foreseeable future, Zhang Yi's team will be the most powerful force in Cheyenne City. Zhao Hangian was the first to run over and expressed friendship with Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, although there was some disagreement between us in the past, but today's sea market is in tatters, it's hard to say whether there are 10,000 people alive. Shall we be friends in the future? We can't afford the price of war. If you need me, please speak up. Zhao Hanglian stretched out her hand to Zhang Yi generously. Zhang Yi was deeply impressed by her heroic appearance, commanding the army to fight the enemy bravely on the battlefield. Unlike the women around Zhang Yi, she is a very capable woman. Zhang Yi is a peace-loving person, and of course he would not refuse someone who offered to show his favor. Although there have been wars before, they were only for resources, and did not involve personal grievances. So Zhang Yi shook hands with her, and said with a smile, "I have always admired you for being able to lead a big power as a woman." He asked curiously, "I think you are very skilled. Did you work in the army or the police system before?" Zhao Hanglian smiled faintly. "I'm the superintendent of the criminal police team of the Xianhe City Police Station." Zhang Yi said with a smile. Sure enough, a hero among women. His heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Zhao Han with a smile and said, "Doesn't that mean that you can master the information of each of us?" Zhao Hanglian said generously, "That's natural. I have all your basic personal information. It's just that it's only before the end of the world." Chapter 495 Suspicious Clouds in My Heart. After Zhao Hanglian left, Wei Dinghe also quickly found him. He is a middle-aged man in his 40s, smooth and sophisticated. As soon as he saw Zhang Yi, he complimented Zhang Yi warmly. "What a young and promising and naturally handsome Zhang Yi. I don't know if you are interested in going to sea. If I have time, I can take you overseas to see. There is still a vast world there." Wei Dinghe warmly invited. Thinking of the vast sea, Zhang Yi couldn't help being fascinated. But thinking that under the vast ocean, there may be more dangerous creatures than land, he shook his head decisively. "Compared to that, it's more practical for you to give me some hairtail." Wei Dinghe laughed and said, "It's easy to say. When we come back from the sea next time, I will bring you the freshest frozen octopus. It is impossible to count on live fish. Only deep sea fish can live in the depths of the ocean now, and they will die once they are caught." Zhang Yi asked, "So many people died this time, is it convenient to go to sea?" The smile on Wei Dinghe's face faded a little. He lowered his head and sighed softly. "Most of the combatants are dead, but I still have some staff members on board. With them, I can still go to sea." Wei Dinghe then expressed the same meaning as Zhao Hanglian. Xianhe City has been scarred from this battle, and the living do not know how many are left. This once big city with a population of more than 2,000 million is now dead. Everyone is tired and doesn't want to fight anymore. Besides, with their small number of people, the resources are enough, and there is no need to snatch them. Afterwards, Zheng Yixin and Crossing Xian also came over. Zheng Yixin's face was always full of sadness. In this battle, their snow cult suffered the heaviest loss. Not just the fighters, but their followers as well. There were more than 5,000 people, and this time more than 4,000 died. Although the remaining living people have not been counted, including the high-level church members and ordinary church members, there are no more than 800 people. Several other families also sympathized with Snow Worship sect, and Crossing Xian relied on that he and Zhang Yi were old classmates, so they hooked up shoulder to shoulder as soon as they came up. "Old Zhang, Xianhe City will be the strongest in your family from now on. You have to cover me," Crossing Xian said with a grin. In fact, among the 5 major forces, their casualty ratio is second only to Zhang Yi's team. His ability is very special, and he can bless many people, turning ordinary soldiers into super fighters. Therefore, only about half of his Xingqian army was killed. The rest of the people are still fierce. Zhang Yi gave him an angry look. "Don't be too optimistic right now. The zombie crisis in Xianhe City is not over yet. Haha, the Corpse King has been dealt with, and the remaining zombies can't make a difference," Crossing Xian said cheerfully. "I advise you not to think so simply." Zhang Yi sneered and said, "Whether this battle has attracted all the Corpse Kings or not, no one knows." Crossing Xian was slightly taken aback. Then he retorted, "If the Corpse King is still alive, why doesn't it come to attack humans? Now that we are weak, it should be the best time for it to attack." "Zhang, are you thinking too much?" Zhang Yi frowned slightly. Nor can he be sure that his thinking is correct. It's just that he always likes to think about things in a bad way. It may be difficult for a pessimist to be happy, but it is certainly not easy to make mistakes. It's hard to say. There is nothing wrong with being careful, and you should pay more attention. Well, I remember. Crossing Cheyenne nodded. But whether he took it to heart or not is unknown. After this battle, the atmosphere among the major forces in Cheyenne City became harmonious. It seems that the zombie attack has turned out to be a good thing. As a certain president once said, when human beings encounter biological attacks other than human beings, perhaps all the contradictions that once existed will no longer be a problem. But in Zhang Yi's heart, there was always a dark feeling that couldn't go away. He looked at those who survived snow worship cult. The corpses of the snow worship sect were strewn all over the field in such a miserable state that everyone felt sympathy for them. Zhang Yi silently called Zhao Ke over and asked her to get in the car with him. He had to do a very important thing. Seeing Zhang Yi's serious expression, Zhao Ke blushed slightly. Recently, I have been busy with the issue of preventing the tide of corpses, and indeed some things have been delayed. It's normal to relax now and deal with it. Ah. She nodded gently, then brushed her hair together and got into the car first. Zhang Yi reminded Fatty Zhu to stand guard for him. Anyone that comes looking for me, keep them away. Got it? A strange look flashed across Liang Yu's cold face. She turned her head and snorted coldly. Fatty Zhu flattered him and said, yes, I will definitely help boss stand on guard. I will let them wait for anyone who comes. Zhang Yi nodded, then got into the car, quickly closed the door, and pulled up the curtains. The interior of the car has its own sound insulation effect, so the sound inside cannot be heard outside. Liang Yu, Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu were resting nearby. Liang Yu's face was a little uncomfortable. She never imagined that one day she would stand guard for such a thing. Uncle Yu was very appreciative. He said with a smile, Zhang Yi is a young man after all. He has more firepower. Having said that, he sighed insignificantly. It's a pity that Zhao Heimei is not here. When Zhang Yi got into the car, he saw Zhao Ke had already taken off his coat and was sitting on the bed pretty, with Erlang's legs crossed leisurely. Look at his eyes full of charm. Zhang Yi sat down next to her. Ke, there is something very important I need to ask you. Zhao Ke looked at Zhang Yi in surprise and saw that his expression was very serious, so she realized that she was wrong. A look of embarrassment flashed across her face. What's the problem? Zhang Yi said seriously. Before, I asked you to help me carefully observe Yuan Kang Gai's incident. Zhang Yi squinted his eyes, thinking back to the night when the tide of corpses hit. Everyone was too nervous that day, and the nerves were always tense, and there was no time to think about other things. But looking back now, there are many unreasonable things. For example, the ice attribute ability displayed by Yuan Kang Gai. According to Zhang Yi's understanding, Yuan Kang Gai relied on two abilities as the leader of snow worship sect before. Blessing Ice Soul can be condensed from her body to help others awaken their abilities or increase their strength. Gift can help people heal physical pain. It is not uncommon for people to have two kinds of abilities at the same time, both of which are biased towards boosting or assisting. Thinking about it this way, it still makes sense. But what happened to the ice attribute ability she showed that night? These are two completely different attribute abilities from her, blessing and gift. Chapter 496 Terrifying Guess. Zhang Yi had seen the power of Yuan Kang Gai's attack, knocking off two powerful bronze-armored flying corpses in an instant, so her strength must be very strong. Just at that moment, Zhang Yi later judged that her combat effectiveness would not lose to Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe. This question is what Zhang Yi doesn't understand the most. Recall carefully, when you were with Yuan Kang Gai, did you notice any abnormalities in her body? Especially when she was attacked that night. How did she fight? Zhao Ke didn't know why Zhang Yi suddenly asked about Yuan Kang Gai. In her opinion, snow worship cult is the biggest victim of this battle. Everyone is sympathizing with them, and they should not be suspicious of them. But since Zhang Yi asked, she recalled it carefully. Well, she spends most of her time these days praying, and then comforting other congregants. It's just that, if you want to talk about a special place, there was one time. She said that she could help me awaken my abilities. A gleam flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. She said she would help you awaken your abilities? Did you agree? Zhao Ke quickly smiled and shook his head. No. Although I really hope to become a different person. But I will keep your instructions in mind and be vigilant against anyone. So I rejected her. Zhang Yi nodded reassuringly. If you don't have anything to show your courtesy, you can either rape or steal. It is impossible for Yuan Kang Gai to be so kind and give the precious ice soul to others. Unless she has some special purpose. Zhang Yi crossed his hands and propped his chin. The fog in his mind began to become clearer. He vaguely felt that he seemed to have grasped the key to the matter. There was even a very bold idea slowly born in his mind. Go ahead and tell me everything about her in detail. Don't miss anything. Zhao Ke nodded and continued talking. After I rejected her, she just said that if I change my mind at any time, I can go to her at any time. She didn't force me, which made me feel okay. Later, it was the two monsters that broke through the ceiling and entered the church. Zhao Ke recalled. At that time, I was sitting in the first row, very close to Yuan Kang Gai, so I could see clearly when she made a move. The two monsters swooped down, and the first target was her. Her speed is very fast. She just raised her hand slightly, and the two monsters were frozen in midair. After that, she just waved her hand so easily, as if she was chasing away mosquitoes, and the two monsters were swept away. Even the door of the church was smashed. Zhao Ke's description is lifelike. As Zhang Yi listened, his scalp was already a little numb, and even his back felt a chill. The ice and snow ability can instantly freeze two powerful bronze armored flying corpses. The reaction speed is extremely fast, and the physical strength is strong. This is the performance of a strengthening alien. Doesn't it mean that she possesses at least 4 different abilities at the same time? Zhang Yi figured it out. He completely figured it out. He finally understood why the Snow Worship Church gave him the Bing Po so easily, and it was generously sent to the hands of the major forces in Xianhei City. He even used the Great Decree to continue preaching, looking for people with potential, and gifting ice souls to them. As long as those people with supernatural potential use ice soul, it doesn't matter, even if they don't join the Snow Worship cult, or even become enemies of the Snow Worship cult. Because Yuan Kang Gai's real ability has never been a blessing. It's return of death. That is to say, once the alien who has been implanted with the awakened ability of the ice soul dies, the ability will return to the original Kang Gai's body. In this way, she can have countless abilities, and it seems that the strength of her abilities is also very powerful. During the Battle of the Five Armies, Zhang Yi found many empty shell aliens without origins on the battlefield. At the beginning, he didn't understand where the source of the power went after those people died. Only now did he understand that those people were using the power of Ice Soul Awakening, so their power also returned to Yuan Kang Gai's body. Then this return can also enhance her own strength. And within a few months of the end of the world, she did not know how many strange people's abilities she had secretly absorbed. Not to mention that after several battles, the aliens in Xianhei City suffered countless casualties. Suddenly, a bolder idea emerged in Zhang Yi's mind. The culprit behind the zombie unrest in Xianhei City couldn't be Yuan Kang Gai, right? The more Zhang Yi thought about it, the more terrifying he felt. If this is the case, the devout believer who seems harmless to humans and animals is actually the biggest and most inhumane demon in Xianhei City. But now, how powerful she is, even Zhang Yi can't imagine. Zhang Yi's face was solemn and terrifying, and his legs began to tremble slightly involuntarily. This is nervous performance. Although these are only his imagination for the time being. But once this guess comes true, it means that he will face an extremely terrifying demon in the near future. However, fortunately, this is only a guess for the time being. At least in some places, Zhang Yi has no way to justify himself. The first is the tide of corpses. If Snow Worship Cult is really capable of controlling so many zombies, then there is no need for them to be suppressed by several major base forces before. Relying on the power of the corpse tide, they can easily flatten Xianhei City. Secondly, it was Yuan Kang Gai's purpose of doing so. As the leader of a sect, she considers herself the most devout believer of the gods, so what reason does she have to destroy the foundation of her sect? During these several wars, the death toll of Snow Worship Cult's believers can only be described as tragic, and there are hardly a few left. Without followers, could her Snow Worship Cult be called a religion? I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. Zhang Yi was a little confused. He closed his eyes and whispered. He also hoped it was just overthinking. but all kinds of clues connected together made him have to think this way. Zhao Ke hurried over to comfort him. Zhang Yi, what's wrong with you? Zhang Yi didn't speak. He fell into a long silence. Yes, all of this is just his imagination. Apart from knowing that Yuan Kang possesses multiple abilities, he has no evidence to prove his guess. Even if this matter is told, no one will believe it. What's more, now he is not willing to startle the snake. I hope it's just me thinking too much. Zhang Yi muttered to himself. He raised his head, looked at the worried Zhao Ke, and smiled. It's nothing, you did a good job. But remember, don't go to Yuan Kang. It won't be a fun thing. Zhao Ke nodded. Oh, I remember. But you seem to have something on your mind? Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows, and after thinking about it, he still didn't tell Zhao Ke about it. After all, this is just my own guess. But if the guess comes true, and Yuan Kang knows that he suspects her, the consequences are not what he is willing to face. Chapter 497. After Zhang Yi and Zhao Ke finished chatting, they got out of the car. He looked at the white Gothic church with complicated emotions. Am I thinking too much, or is it true? If Snow Worship Cult had the ability to control the tide of corpses, there was absolutely no need to wait until now to take action. Unless there is some special reason. However, if Yuan Kang was really the mastermind behind the scenes, she could have taken advantage of everyone's weakness to kill everyone that night a few days ago. This again seems a little unreasonable. And judging by her appearance, it doesn't look like she can manipulate the tide of corpses. Chaos. The more Zhang Yi thought about it, the more he felt that the logic of the matter was not smooth. No matter how you look at it, Snow Worship Cult does not have such conditions and reasons. And Zhang Yi's suspicion is only due to the various abilities she showed. I'll investigate secretly again. Zhang Yi thought so in his heart. At this time, he heard Bayan Junwu coughing not far away. Zhang Yi raised his head and saw Wu Di, Bailey Changqing and others looking at Bayan Junwu nervously. He covered his mouth with a white handkerchief and coughed very violently, as if he wanted to cough up his lungs. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. Could it be that Yuan Kang is afraid of people from the Jiangnan region? Zhang Yi felt that he was almost bewildered. He seems to be a conspiracy theorist, always looking at everything around him with suspicion. Zhang Yi shook his head and put aside the complicated and messy thoughts in his mind. Then he walked towards Bayan Junwu and the others. When the investigation team saw Zhang Yi, they had different expressions on their faces. Most people's faces are more friendly. Because Bayan Junwu once said that he intends to let Zhang Yi join their investigation team. He is already in decline, and due to the influence of supernatural powers, his lifespan is numbered. So he has been looking for new members for the investigation team. Zhang Yi's performance in Xianhe City, as well as his excellent record in the past few nights, made everyone in the investigation team recognize his ability. Although there is some overlap with Qi Guangming in terms of sniping, but having two snipers on a team isn't a big deal, not to mention they don't have the same abilities in other areas. Only Wu Di always looked at Zhang Yi in a somewhat unkind way. Zhang Yi himself didn't know when he offended Wu Di, but he didn't like to cause trouble, so he simply turned a blind eye. Captain, are you alright? Zhang Yi came over and greeted Bayan Junwu with concern. Bayan Junwu loosened his handkerchief, and Zhang Yi saw dark red bloodstains inside. He couldn't help, but his heart skipped a beat. Bayan Junwu was indeed sick to the bone. It seems that in the last beheading operation, he used his ability again, causing his condition to worsen. Zhang Yi felt a little regretful in his heart. Bayan Junwu gave him a good impression. He was a calm, wise leader and extremely powerful. Without their help this time, Xianhe City would basically have no chance of solving the zombie crisis by itself. Bayan Junwu said indifferently, as usual, I won't live for a few more days. Although he was talking about his own life and death, his expression did not fluctuate at all, as if he had seen through life and death long ago. Wu Di said with a worried face, Boss, don't say that. Let's go back to Blizzard City. You go back to receive treatment, and your injuries will stop deteriorating. Bayan Junwu shook his head. He knows his own body. Although the region used various means to keep him, a Delta level alien who had experienced many battles, but mutation itself is irreversible. He must bear the consequences of using his abilities. Bayan Junwoo said to Zhang Yi, "We will make a finishing touch at the end and confirm that there is no corpse king in Cheyenne City, so we will go back." He suddenly smiled and said, "How about it? The current Cheyenne City is riddled with holes. I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with any natural or man-made disasters in the future. Do you want to consider going back with us? Not only you, but also those friends around you. Everyone around Zhang Yi is an elite. If he can go to Blizzard City, he can also get a job." Zhang Yi smiled faintly. "I don't have this plan yet, but it may pass in the future." Woody snorted coldly, "You are picky. Do you really think anyone can go to Blizzard City if they want?" Zhang Yi is not as knowledgeable as him, just smiled and said, "I still have some friends here. Besides, Cheyenne City is my hometown, and I'm used to it, so it is hard to just leave." Bayan Junwoo didn't force it either. "Think about it yourself. With your ability, there should be a wider sky." Zhang Yi glanced at the others, but Woody looked worried, always looking at people with his chin up. Zhang Yi didn't talk much, told Bayan Junwoo to take care of himself, and planned to leave. "Hey, the surname is Zhang. I heard that you are very powerful, and you are also one of the best masters in Cheyenne City. Would you like to compete with me?" Woody stopped Zhang Yi suddenly, staring at him with a provocative tone. Several investigators around looked at him, some with playful expressions, and some with thoughtful eyes. Bayan Junwoo didn't say anything. He just looked at Zhang Yi, wanting to see how Zhang Yi would respond. But Zhang Yi didn't hesitate for a moment, and raised his hands very bachelorly. He smiled and said to Woody, "Brother, please spare me. I'm not good at martial arts. My ability can only be cold guns, and it is easier to carry materials. You are the elite of Blizzard City. If you fight with me, isn't this bullying me? I admit defeat. Surrender." Although Zhang Yi didn't know where Woody's hostility towards him came from, but he won't fight if it's meaningless. People who are competitive are the easiest to die. Zhang Yi knows this very well. It's just that, when he agrees to fight with someone, it means that he wants to kill the other party. But obviously, Zhang Yi won't get any benefit from killing Woody, so he doesn't fight. Woody didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so obstinate, so he raised the white flag directly. He pointed at Zhang Yi angrily, "You haven't even fought. How can you admit defeat? You are also the boss of a faction in Cheyenne City. Are you just so shameless?" Zhang Yi smiled and waved his hand. "What boss? We are just a few friends huddling together to keep warm, and everyone is giving me face and saying something to me. I still have things to do. Let's talk later." After speaking, Zhang Yi quickly left here, not giving Woody a chance to find fault. Trembling with anger, Woody pointed at Zhang Yi's back and said to Bayan Junwoo, "Boss, this guy's too cowardly. Are you going to let him join us? See how he fits from head to toe." Bailey Chanking next to him laughed loudly. Bayan Junwoo also smiled. He looked at Woody meaningfully and said, "That's why I like him. If everyone in the investigation team is like you, it will be terrible." Chapter 498 Sharing Ice Soul. Zhang Yi would not respond to Woody's provocation. In his opinion, this kind of person who is still arrogant and domineering in the last days is doomed to a short life. If it wasn't for Woody's strong strength and the frontier army guarding him, he would have been killed a long time ago. If Woody really fights Zhang Yi has 100 ways to make him die ugly. After leaving Bayan Junwoo's side, Zhang Yi knew that they would not leave for the time being, so he felt much more at ease. Regardless of whether the Snow Worship sect has a conspiracy or not, with people from the Jiangnan region, there will be no chaos in Cheyenne City. He came to the Yangsheng base and asked Zhao Hong to practice. The soldiers at Yangsheng base were very familiar with Zhang Yi, and after several battles, they were full of awe of Zhang Yi. As enemies, they are afraid of Zhang Yi. As comrades in arms, they respect Zhang Yi. "Mr. Zhang, please wait a moment, I will report right away." After a foreign captain finished speaking, he went to find Zhao Honglian. After a while, Zhao Honglian came to Zhang Yi. "Yo, what can you do with me?" Zhao Honglian asked with a generous smile. Zhang Yi looked around and said to her, "Let's go for a walk together." Zhao Honglian's expression was a little surprised. She looked Zhang Yi up and down and said with a strange expression, "Your family should have no shortage of women. I can warn you, don't try to trick me." Zhang Yi couldn't help laughing. You think too much. I just have something to ask for your help. There are too many people here, so it's inconvenient to talk about it. Okay then. Zhao Hanglian and Zhang Yi walked out of the center of the camp like a leisurely stroll, walking casually in the snow and ruins. Seeing that there was no one else around, Zhao Han practiced. Is there anything you can talk about now? Zhang Yi said, did you say before that you can get the information of everyone in Xianhei City? Yes. Zhao Hanglian blinked and looked at Zhang Yi's side face. Why? Whose information do you want to check? Everyone in Xianhei City is almost dead, and the person Zhang Yi wants to investigate is most likely in the snow worship cult's camp. Zhao Hanglian was very curious about what Zhang Yi was going to do. Zhang Yi said indifferently, the two bases of King Pu and Zhao Yu, as well as the information of the leader of the snow worship cult and their deputy. Zhao Hanglian heard the words, and couldn't help asking, are you still worried about them? Zhang Yi smiled lightly, it's not that I'm worried, it's just that I'm always cautious, and like to be prepared. Zhao Hanglian twitched her lips, do you want to give you our information as well? Zhang Yi laughed and said, if you are willing, of course it would be the best. You think beautiful. Zhao Hanglian refused without even thinking about it. How could she expose her details to Zhang Yi? Zhang Yi looked at her with a smile. How about it? Is it possible? Zhao Hanglian frowned, with suspicion in his eyes. She didn't know Zhang Yi's purpose. The information in her hands, to be honest, did not introduce everyone's life in detail. But when the end of the world came, she took advantage of her previous position to collect as much information as possible on every key figure in the power. Therefore, her statistics are fairly comprehensive. But that is all information before the end of the world, and it is not very useful now. It is not a big problem for Zhang Yi to give those materials. It's not impossible to give it to you. But Zhao Hanglian raised the corner of his mouth. What do you want to exchange with me? She will not give it to Zhang Yi for free. Zhang Yi said with a faint smile. What do you want? Food, energy, or weapons? I don't lack any of those things. Zhao Hanglian waved his hand. Now that so many people have died, the problem of resource shortage in Xianhei City can be easily solved. She won't need those things for a while. If I give you the information, I hope to get a promise from you. Promise? What promise? Zhang Yi asked. Zhao Hanglian looked at him and said with a smile, if one day we encounter danger, I hope you can help us once. Good guy, it's the end of the world, and you still believe in promises? Zhang Yi felt a little funny in his heart. Do you think this kind of promise is useful? Zhao Hanglian said seriously, I think it's useful. We are the only ones left in Xianhei City. If we want to survive, we must cooperate to maintain a certain social order. Otherwise, in a completely disordered environment, no one can live steadily. Zhang Yi thought about it and felt that this condition was easy to accept. If Zhao Hanglian needs his help in the future, and he can solve the matter easily, he doesn't mind making a move once. But if you need to pay a lot of money, it's hard to say. Okay, I can promise you. Zhang Yi nodded. For Zhao Hanglian, this is a guaranteed business, and she doesn't need to pay anything anyway. It's just some data in the system. The information is all in the server of our base, and I will pass it on to you when I go back. Zhao Hanglian said. Then when do you plan to go back? Zhang Yi asked. Zhao Hanglian said as he walked, the things here are almost done. It's time for us to go back and rebuild our homeland. We'll leave tomorrow. One more thing is to reorganize our armed forces. She took a deep breath. Our losses in this battle are really too great. As she said that, she looked at Zhang Yi. What about you? Are you still leaving? Zhang Yi smiled lightly and said, we are almost there too. There are some things he still wants to observe. And he also wanted to communicate with the investigation team again. It must be confirmed that all the corpse kings in Xianhei City have been killed before he can return to the shelter with peace of mind. Otherwise, with the speed at which the corpse king spreads the virus, as long as one corpse king survives, the terrifying tide of corpses may come back soon. Zhang Yi and Zhang Yi returned to the camp. Zhang Yi behaved as usual and greeted Zheng Yixin and other worshippers with a smile. He didn't show any doubts about the snow worship cult or the sudden appearance and disappearance of corpses. That night, Zhao Hanglian expressed to everyone that they wanted to leave. Today's sea city is in ruins, and our Yangsheng base has suffered heavy losses, and we have to start over from scratch. We have to get back to building quickly. Everyone expressed their understanding. But at this time, Yuan Kangai suddenly said, "Everyone, after this battle, our Xianhe city's vitality has been seriously damaged. The losses of each family have been heavy, and there has been a vacancy in our combat power. Therefore, I decided to contribute my modest contribution." As she spoke, she took out 5 small wooden boxes. Everyone is familiar with this small wooden box. The entire Xianhe city has been obtained by all major forces. What is inside is the ice soul separated by Yuan Kangai himself. For Yuan Kangai, it was not an easy task to separate Bing Pio. Because the ice soul is the most essence of her own cells, she can only produce a few hundred in her lifetime. Every time the ice soul is produced, her body will enter a weak state. But this time, she actually gave a share to each of the 5 forces present, including the investigation team, also got the share she gave. The quantity is limited. I gave 2 ice caps to each family. If you meet someone with talent, give it to him. However, if you don't have someone who can judge whether the target candidate has potential, it's better to use it for the current aliens. It can stimulate the potential of the human body, make the aliens stronger. When Yuan Kangai said this, his eyes flicked over several leaders. Chapter 499 Return of Death. The moment Yuan Kangai took out the ice poker, a bitter chill rose in Zhang Yi's heart. It's like walking through the wind and snow on the Arctic ice sheet, and suddenly being spotted by a polar bear. The suspicion in his heart grew stronger. If it is what he thinks, Yuan Kangai's ability is Death Return. So she is distributing ice souls to everyone now, which means that in the near future, she will attack everyone, kill them and gain their power. Zhang Yi couldn't help but think of what Zhao Ke said. When Yuan Kangai wanted to give Zhao Ke ice soul, Zhao Ke refused. This also shows that whether to use the ice soul is actually decided by the recipient, instead of Yuan Kangai himself. Zhao Hanglian, Wei Dinghe, Crossing Shine and the others all had expressions of surprise on their faces. They are all the beneficiaries of Bing Pio. They used Bing Pio to create the first batch of aliens, before they succeeded in occupying one side. For Bing Pio, they are very eager. Especially at this time, they urgently need to quickly increase the combat effectiveness of their forces. And regarding Bing Pio, they didn't have any doubts in their hearts. From the very beginning, they had been rigorously tested. This substance will not have any negative effects on the human body, nor will it have mind control-like abilities. So they can be used with confidence. Zhao Hanglian couldn't wait to take Bing Pio into his hands. Original leader, thank you very much. Wei Dinghe and Crossing Shine also quickly took their share of the ice soul. There was no expression on Ban Junwu's face, but he was interested in this kind of funny stuff. It's always okay to take it home and study it. When he came to Xianhe City, he had an additional task, which was to observe Yuan Kangai's ability level. If she can really help people awaken their abilities at no cost, then she will become a top alien of the terrifying Epsilon level. Of course, limited by the amount of ice souls she can produce, this effect will be compromised. But it is also of great value, and it should belong to an excellent Delta level alien with flawed abilities just like him. With a smile on Zhang Yi's face, he put away Bing Pio with anticipation like everyone else. This time we owe you a favor. If you need anything in the future, you can say hello. Zhang Yi smiled and said to Yuan Kangai and Zheng Yixin. The smile on the corner of Zheng Yixin's mouth was even stronger. Yuan Kangai nodded and said, we may become a whole in the future. We should coexist with each other and support each other. Zhang Yi was secretly vigilant in his heart. Including these 2 ice caps, there are now 3 ice caps in his hand. If analyzed according to the ability of Death Return, they can create 3 aliens, but as long as the host does not die, the ability will not return to Yuan Kangai. Moreover, they themselves should have no negative effects. This point has been confirmed by the former 4 major Al-Qaeda organizations through various means. Their technical ability is stronger than that of Zhang Yi, so there is no need for Zhang Yi to prove it. Zhang Yi secretly said in his heart, Yuan Kangai's purpose is to let the leaders of the major forces or powerful aliens use the ice soul. but I can't use it, not at all. However, it can be used by Care, Xingxin and Kanran in the future. In this way, 3 aliens can be created. It's just that their potential will determine the upper limit of their abilities, which is hard to say. As for Zhao Hanglian, Crossing Cheyenne and others, after Zhang Yi thought about it for a while, he gave up his plan to remind them. He still can't fully trust these people. Reminding others of the self-proclaimed sentimental past, maybe they will expose their suspicion of you and Kangai in advance. If they want to use it, let them go. Anyway, as long as they don't die, it seems that there will be no other problems at present. Everyone thanked Yuan Kangai for his generosity, and then left the church. Nothing to say that night. Early the next morning, the people at Yangsheng base packed their luggage, and prepared to go back first. Their mobile units are more convenient, so they can go back quickly. As for the Zhaoyu base, there are many wounded here, and they have to rest for a few more days. Although Crossing Shine and the others have the lowest battle loss ratio, they basically fight close to hand during the war, which consumes a lot of vitality. So they also plan to rest and set off again. In this way, only Zhao Han practiced them leaving the base camp of Snow Worship Cult. Zhang Yi and the others naturally came over to say goodbye. Now that everyone has gone through a life and death battle, the relationship is more harmonious than before, and there is a feeling of pity for each other. When you go back, don't forget what we promised. Zhang Yi walked up to Zhao Hanglian, smiled and reached out to her. Seeing this, Zhao Hanglian laughed dumbfoundedly, and then walked over generously, and gave Zhang Yi a bear hug. Don't worry, I'll send it to you, as soon as I get back. After all, I really hope to get your help. Zhao Han has a well-proportioned figure and always wears a tight combat uniform on weekdays. But with such a hug, Zhang Yi really felt the fullness of her figure. Zhang Yi hugged her back, and patted her on the back. Then let's talk about it. When the two were embracing, they suddenly heard a fierce quarrel not far away. Okay. The two were a little curious. It's such a time. Everyone is still resting after the battle. Who is so ignorant? Many people were attracted by the movement over there. Everyone only saw a boy and a girl talking there. The boy's face was flushed red, and he spoke excitedly. His voice was shrill, as if it hadn't changed. The girl had a calm and peaceful expression, and she reasoned with him in detail. These two are none other than Li Kao and his little girlfriend Zubibi. But judging from the atmosphere at the scene, she was already an ex-girlfriend. What Zubibi was wearing was obviously the combat uniform of the Yangsheng base. And not far behind her, stood a tall and heroic Yangsheng base officer. Zubibi looked at Li Kao calmly. Lel, stop. I have found a better home. I hope you can understand. We are not suitable now. Li Kao's eyes were full of confusion and fear. He has become like this now. Only Zubibi can give him hope of living. But why did she suddenly change her mind when she was fine before? Could it be just because he is missing some functions? Li Kao roared in pain. Bibi, you can't leave me. I need you now. Have you forgotten how good we were back then? You said that we would be together forever. Did you forget? You forgot? Looking at the collapsed Li Kao, Zubibi's eyes flashed a look of unbearable. But she didn't soften her heart in the slightest. Since the end of the world, she has been able to survive until now, relying on her clear mind. Chapter 500 Reality and the Apocalypse. Zubibi said to Li Kao, I found someone who is more suitable for me. I can have a better life without him. He is stronger than you, can protect me, and can provide me with rich material. If you were me, you would do the same. Although she is only less than 20 years old, after going through all kinds of end times, people can always grow up very fast. The most basic need of most people is to live. As for love, it's just a little seasoning in the last days. It can be tasted and added flavor, but it cannot be eaten as a meal. However, Li Kao couldn't accept it. He cried in pain. No, I won't. Bibi, I love you. Can he love you more than me? Zubibi looked at the childish Li Kao and shook her head helplessly. Let me tell you the truth. At the beginning, I took the initiative to approach you, only because your father is a priest of the church. Although you are also very interesting, I have a good impression of you. But just because of these, I can't find a boy who is younger than me, and can't protect me. Isn't it too self-deceiving to talk about love at this time? Behind Zubibi, the officer became a little impatient. he said to Zubibui coldly. Okay, it's time for us to go. The farewell should be over. Zubibui turned around quickly and changed back to her petite and cute appearance in front of him. Sorry, brother, I wasted your time. Let's go. As she said that, she wanted to follow the officer and leave without looking back. Li Kao's eyes widened, and fear was written in his eyes. Now, he only has Zubibui left. If he looks like this, if he leaves Zubibui, how can he survive? He subconsciously reached out to grab Zubibui. Bibi, don't leave me, you. If you dare to leave, I will die for you. Zubibui's good temper was finally exhausted. She threw Li Kao away angrily and then said to him with a ferocious expression, Li Kao, are you finished? You have become a eunuch now. Are you still dreaming about that kind of dream? As soon as these words came out, there was a moment of silence in the air. Eunuch. Zhang Yi frowned curiously, not quite sure why Zubibui made such a statement. Could it be that the child was frozen to death brother at a young age? Hearing Zubibui's words, Li Kao suddenly became vicissitudes, like an eggplant beaten by frost. Zubibui also realized that what she said was too much. She bowed her head and said, I'm sorry. Then she turned around and left with the officer without looking back. She just wants to live well. There is nothing wrong with her. Li Kao stood there slumped, watching Zubibui and the officer get into a truck, but lost the courage to chase after him. Suddenly, a sound like a wounded beast came out of his throat, and then he ran wildly into the distance. Zhang Yi recognized Li Kao's identity, but he didn't know Li Jian's family very well, so he just watched the play quietly. Zhao Hanglian was next to him, and after watching this good show, he said with a smile, it looks like this kid hasn't been beaten before. He's so childish. It's a good thing for him. How can he grow without suffering? Zhang Yi didn't make fun of Li Kao. In the process of growing up, who has not longed for love? Just waking up from the dream, this process is destined to be rugged and full of pain. When you wake up, you grow up. If you can't wake up, you're useless. Zhang Yi bid farewell to Zhao Hanglian, and after a while, he saw Li Jian and his wife running out to look for Li Kao. Presumably they got the news of their son, and they were afraid that something would happen to him. Li Jian and Zhang Jia and Fang were anxious. They know their son all too well. Li Kao has been cared for by them since he was a child, and he has not experienced any blows. So his personality has always been sunny and cheerful, but also a little naive. Recently, he has suffered a severe blow, and his mind is a little out of order. Now that Zubibui, his spiritual pillar, had left him again, Li Jian and Zhang Jia and Fang were of course afraid of what he would do stupidly. The two hurriedly asked the people around them where Li Kao was going. Someone told him that Li Kao ran out of the camp and headed northwest. Li Jian and Zhang Jia and Fang hurriedly chased after them. They went for a long time and didn't come back. They were not seen until evening. But at that time, Li Jian and Zhang Jia and Fang looked like puppets whose souls had been sucked out. Everyone immediately guessed that Li Kao should be dead. It's just that no one has discussed this matter. Too many people have died, and everyone is numb. Regardless of other people's life or death, tomorrow's life will still go on as usual. After another 2 days, Zhang Yi couldn't collect any useful information while worshipping the snow sect. As for Zhao Hanglian, he also sent the information he wanted. Zhang Yi felt that there was no need to stay any longer, so he bid farewell to Bian Junwu and others, and planned to go back to the shelter. Everyone exchanged pleasantries, but didn't do much to persuade them to stay. But before leaving, Zhang Yi found Bian Junwu, and said to him, Captain Bian, can we have a few words alone? Bian Junwu looked at him, and said with a smile, did you change your mind? Zhang Yi knew that he was referring to going to the Jiangnan region by himself. Zhang Yi smiled faintly, it's not about this matter. It's just that I'm a little worried about something, and I want to talk to you. Bian Junwu looked at his team members. Everyone looked at Zhang Yi playfully, and Wudi looked even more unkind. They didn't know what Zhang Yi was going to do, but Bian Junwu still nodded. Okay, let's go over there and have a chat. The two stayed away from the crowd and came to a deserted street outside the snow worship cult camp. There is no one else here. If you have anything to say, you can say it now. Bian Junwu's tone was still so indifferent. Zhang Yi turned his head and glanced at his side face. He was paler than when he first saw him. Not even the snow on the ground was as white as his face. His lips were bluish purple, which made people worry about his physical condition. Zhang Yi knew that Bayan Junwu didn't like nonsense, so he didn't beat around the bush. Captain Bayan, I hope you can stay in Xianhai City for a while longer. Bayan Junwu looked at Zhang Yi, waiting for his next words. Zhang Yi continued, this mission, I always feel that the end is too easy. From the beginning, we assumed that the Corpse King possessed high intelligence. So, is it possible for them to realize that we are setting traps to lure them over? If so, why did they gather in one place again and let us kill them? Bayan Junwu calmly replied, we have considered the question you mentioned. But the mutated corpse is not human after all, and its wisdom is limited. And from that battle to the present, no large-scale corpses have been found. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.